Evening.
Excellent. I want to thank everybody for coming for the August 14th, 2023 O&A meeting. It's a committee of the whole for part of this meeting that we're going to be doing tonight. And it's not a public hearing. So we'll start off with announcing. We have Councilor Majota, Councilor O'Hara, Councilor Grow, Councilor Gross, Councilor Memhard, Councilor President Gilman. We have Sherry White, and is Tracy online?
No, I do not see Tracy.
Is anybody else online besides our
Suzanne,
city attorney, Suzanne Egan?
Suzanne Egan and the city clerk, Joanne Zinos.
And Joanne Sinos. Councilor Grow, you had your hand
Oh.
raised.
No, I was just waving.
And Councilor Neal is with us as well. All right, so first off, we have number one, a memorandum from the general counsel regarding the proposed amendments to Division 8, Human Rights Commission, Section 2-496, ET section in Division 10A, Disability Rights Commission, Section 2-515, ET section. And Suzanne, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. I can see them. So tonight before you is the proposed amendments to the Human Rights Commission. What these amendments do is they align the ordinance with the Human Rights Commission's roles and responsibilities. So what we have is that we have changed I'll give you a general overview first. So first, what we're doing is we're saying that they're more of an educational and advisory commission as opposed to the role that the ordinance puts them in when the ordinance and the commission was first created, and that was in 1994. So I can run through this with you. We've changed the terms and the membership of the commission by adding to the commission's request and the mayor's approval 2 non-voting student members, which will provide the Human Rights Commission with good input from the youth population. And we've also reduced the number of commissioners just so that it's easier for the commission to reach a quorum, which they have difficulty doing a number of times. So that was another request. And if you go to 2-499 purposes, that has been changed to show that the purpose of the Human Rights Commission is to provide educational and advisory role to the community and also to the city, as opposed to how it's written now. Is there more of an adjudicatory or an investigatory tribunal? They didn't act in that capacity, and it put them in a challenging capacity, because if you don't, when you're an administrative tribunal or an investigatory tribunal, you go through that process in order to provide somebody a remedy for if rights are abridged. And as a Human Rights Commission, they don't have any authority to provide a remedy. So what this does is it says they're not acting as an investigatory or an adjudicatory tribunal, but instead they're going to act to look into educational events and also provide people information so that if they feel that their rights, civil rights or any other type of rights have been violated, they can provide the resources to them to go to the appropriate places to seek a remedy for those alleged violations of their human rights. And what this ordinance also does is the way that the Code of Ordinances is set up right now, we have a separate section of the Code of Ordinances, which is before you also, is the Disability Rights Commission section, which states as a separate ordinance section that the Disability Rights Commission is a subcommittee of the Human Rights Commission. And what that did is it set out the same statutory powers and authorities that a disability commission would have under the general laws, under Chapter 40, Section 8J, if the city adopted that in the appropriate manner. So it sort of had a hybrid ability to be a disability rights commission. So what we're doing here is in the proposed amendments to the Human Rights Commission is we're just plugging that in right into the ordinance, and that's section 2-500. And that states that the Human Rights Commission can have a disability rights subcommittee. That's purpose is to promote the rights of people with disabilities. And then the proposed section maintains section 2-501. And I can explain, if it would be helpful, a little bit more about the Disability Rights Commission, because I know that's a cause of concern. It's a big change, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands the reason for the change. And that's because what we want to make sure what we do as a community is we comply with the law. The Disability Rights Commission under Chapter 4, General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8J, provides that a city may adopt or create a disability commission, provided the city through the city council adopts or accepts the statute. So first of all, the city would have to accept the statute. We have not done that as a community, so that would be something that the city council would have to do. And then Section 4J or 8J provides that who can be on that Disability Rights Commission. The majority of members must be people with disabilities. There must be a member of, or it may be, a member may be an immediate family of somebody with a disability, and then also an official that's either appointed or elected official. So that's how you have a commission on disability rights. That's how the city properly does that. And if we choose as a community to have that, then we would follow it. I would advise that we go through that proper process, and we do that. But in the meantime, we don't want to have a hybrid ordinance that doesn't follow that criteria under the statute, because then they have no authority to act, and we're acting outside of our legal capacity. So that's what we've done here. So if anybody has any questions about that, I know it's a little bit complicated, but we're trying to get this so that it's sort of in a capsule and it's neat, and the Human Rights Commission understands what their roles and responsibilities are, acts on them, and it makes it easy for them to perform those duties.
So thank you, Suzanne. Councilor Majota, do you have any questions for Suzanne on this?
I do not.
Councilor O'Hara, do you have any questions?
No, I think it's a great addition. People with disabilities, obviously, unfortunately we have disabilities in our lives, and it's extremely important that they are represented and represented fairly. So to have this added, I think, is a great addition, and I appreciate the mayor, the administration, and Suzanne for her efforts to move this forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor O'Hara. Suzanne, I am going to open the floor up to Josh. He has a question. He's been involved in this for a while, and so I'd like to, if he has a question to ask, I'd like to open the floor for him to ask a question.
Yeah, thank you.
State your name. Yes.
Josh Arnold, 8 Linden Road, Gloucester, Massachusetts. I appreciate, Susan, your explanation about accepting the particular section of the law, and I was not realizing the city hadn't accepted that. In my view, though, I think that the disability population of Gloucester and the set of all people who come here as part of tourism who have disabilities would benefit from an entity that works for disabilities in and of themselves without having to be a subgroup of Human Rights Commission. And I get the well, we have to start over here and all that. So this is a bridge to something, but the longer term goal for me would be that you accept the statute and create a Disabilities Rights Commission, because I think that there's enough of a need for that here, and I don't think that that the fact that it hasn't been staffed over the last 2 years, or that there was opposition to it somewhere in the hall under a prior administration, should take away from this going forward. Now, if you look at some of the other cities and towns on the North Shore, they have a Disabilities Rights Commission. For example, Salem, Beverly, Newburyport, Danvers, Marblehead, Peabody, Lynn, and Swampscott all have a Disabilities Rights Commission. 5 of those also have a Human Rights Commission. When you put them all in a matrix, they all have their own website, and they list the number of people that are on those commissions. And then there's Gloucester, that doesn't have a website, and there are no members on it. So my fear is that it gets anchored in a subcommittee of the Human Rights Committee, and it's gonna get as much activity as it's gotten over the last 2 years, which is nothing. I exchanged emails with the mayor on the proposal, and I said, hey, I just spent 3 hours working at the bandstand to get it ready for the concert and the pancake breakfast. And I came across, how does a person with a wheelchair get there to the bandstand? There's not enough handicap parking in the front row of Stage 4 Park. There should be one for every 20 spaces. There isn't. You know, my wife's handicapped. She lost her leg when she was at the age of 6. So I'm sensitive to it, probably more sensitive than other people. I just think the city population would be well served if it had its own board as advocates for them. However, the machinations legally and ordinance-wise, they need to do that. You know, that's all.
Excellent, thank you, Josh, very much for that. I do see that Councilor Grow does have his hand up, and we did open the floor on this topic, so I'll allow Councilor Grow to speak as well.
I'm not going to address Josh's points. I think they're well made. I did want to point out that Tony Borge, the chair of the Human Rights Commission, is on the call in case you had any desire to reference her or ask her any questions on it. The only thing I would say about Josh's comments are that this doesn't eliminate any of the requirements that we are legally held to for ADA, and it certainly doesn't prevent us from accepting the Mass General Law at a time in the future when we're better prepared to staff and to build up the actual Disability Rights Commission. I think part of the problem we've had with the Human Rights Commission is that there's not enough people. We can't get enough people on that, much less the Disability Rights Commission. And as Suzanne Egan has already pointed out, these are in conflict with our lack of acceptance of Mass General Law. So it's not that we can't do this stuff in the future. It's just that currently, right now, it doesn't make sense to have this on the books the way it is because it doesn't follow anything that we are legally bound to. If I'm reading it correctly, Suzanne.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you, Councilor Grow.
Mr. Chairman?
Josh?
I'm sorry, I don't want to keep cutting in. You're right, there is statutory language that differentiates the function of the two entities. And I know from the research I did prior, when we were trying to get this done the first time around in the prior administration, Jen Holmgren and Doug Gilman were instrumental in advancing that. There is a clause where you can set up a revolving fund so that fines that are issued to people who park in handicapped spots or other kinds of things can go to the education process of making people aware of handicap needs and responsibilities. For my background, I think that on your website, when you look at the city of Gloucester, you ought to showcase what we have here. But when you do that, you want to be able to click on it and see what accommodations are there for people with disabilities. And I don't see that. If the Chamber of Commerce puts out a catalog of all of the business in town, or they have a website that does that, there ought to be that orientation so that I'm going to go to that hotel. This is what they have for me. That's the kind of awareness that I think that Gloucester would benefit from. When you look at the inventory that the community development department does on all the waterways and all the landings and all of those things, how many of those are handicap accessible? Are we letting that population access that? Do they know they can access it? Do they know that there's such a list? I don't know. So I'm saying that whatever the language is, whether it's short-term or long, if you pass the ordinance as proposed tonight with the idea of, okay, let's fix, this is the fix we need for now, but the long-term picture is we want to do something else. That would be what I would hope you could move to. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Josh. Councilor Gross.
I'd just like to point out that right in the very first sentence of the existing language, it does say, this is as it exists today. There shall be a subcommission under the Human Rights Commission. So it is, as it exists today, already a subcommittee of the Human Rights Commission.
Exactly.
So this does not change that at all.
I don't.
So I'm not sure everybody understood that.
Tony Borch has her hand up.
We'll bring Tony in too.
Hello, everyone.
How you doing,
Hear me? Yeah, I'm Tony Borge. I live on 8 Wheelers Point Road here. I've served on the Human Rights Commission for almost 4 years now, and this year is I'm served as chair. And one of the things as we have been learning about ourselves as a commission, and recognizing what, like what we can do, because when we started, it was just like right at the beginning, well, at COVID, and, and we had no guidance. And so as we came together, and it wasn't until we started, talking to Suzanne and recognizing, like the ordinance as it currently is really does, what we can do, or what we should do as within the ordinance was not that, and recognizing that it needed to be revised and changed. But one thing too is that there are a couple things. One is that we have been consistently concerned that there has been no one, the Disability Rights Commission has not been able to become active because there's been no one that has applied to serve on the commission. And that has been a concern for us for over 4 years. And so then through our discussions with Suzanne, it's like, how can we ensure that, we are making sure that there is a commission that is specifically targeted to address the peoples with disabilities in our community. And so through the discussion in regards to is how one is to ensure that there can be, is that to really, subsume the Disability Rights Commission, because it's a separate ordinance as it is now. And even though in the Human Rights Commission, it says it's a subcommission, but it still needed its own, like members. And so that is one of the things that has driven us to ensure that one is that by having it as a subcommission, one, we can continue to do recruitment, but at the same time, people can then, we can, be aware of what's going on. And as, as Suzanne is like, as an educator and advocate, be a referral service. So for example, Josh, when you're talking about the needs for having handicap parking, while we are not as an adjudicatory, but, as we can, if somebody from the public, had asked about that, then we would be able to inform that person who to directly go to the city to address it. Again, it's a kind of a fine line for us in regards to, what we can and what we can't do because of who we are as a commission. And second to address is the issue of the website. This has been a big concern about us because, while we are on the website and we have the ordinance, just like, you all have, the city council and the, and the other you know, like the O&A has, you know, a separate page, is that it's not user friendly. And unlike other, you know, like Beverly or Danvers, they have like although they're on the city website, they have a separate link that people can go to. And we've had discussions. We know the city is doing a lot in regards to technology and how that can be done. So, you know, I just want to let you know, Josh, you're concerned. This is something that has been concerned, and how we address it, and how, you know, to ensure that we are serving everyone in the city of Gloucester, no matter who they are, no matter, you know, whether disabilities, whatever, you know, concerns, because that is, and we take it very seriously, you know, our duties and responsibilities as the Human Rights Commission. So, and that's-
Excellent, thank you, Tony. Sherry, is there anybody else?
No, nobody else with their hand up.
Beautiful, so I have a book to read, correct?
Yes, couple of them.
Would you like me to read it?
No, I got this one. I may ask you guys to do another one.
Okay, no problem. Just let me know.
Not a problem. Thank you, Jamie. So, the Ordinance Administration Committee moved to recommend the City Council amend the Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Board, Committees, and Commissions, Division 8, Human Rights Commissions, Section 2-497A, Establish Terms, Compensation, Section 2-499, Purposes, and Section 2-500, Powers and Duties as follows. Section 2-497, Establish Terms, Compensation. There, add is hereby established, the delete shall be in the city commission known as the Gloucester Human Rights Commission, delete hereinafter called commissions which shall coexist, add commission consisting of delete 9, add 7 members appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council to serve without compensation. Delete the commission, add there may add also be delete have in addition one alternate member. Delete appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council and an ex officio member selected by the majority vote of the commissioners. Add and 2 non-voting student members. A student member is defined as an individually currently enrolled in 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, but not older than 22, residing in Gloucester, including those enrolled in General Education Development, GED program. Section 2-499, Purposes. Delete, the purpose of the commission shall be to add, the commission shall act as an advisory commission to the mayor and work to enhance equal justice, inclusivity, and human rights for all members of our community. Delete, improve the life of the city by enlisting individuals in community-based groups in educational programs and campaigns to increase mutual self-respect, harmonious intergroup relations, and the peaceful enjoyment of life in our diverse community. Add 1, the commission shall serve as a resource to the city of Gloucester and the public. The commission may provide education and support on human rights, diversity, and inclusivity, with the goal of raising awareness and sensitivity to matters of human and civil rights. Delete 2, assist persons in the city who believe that the human or civil rights as defined by existing local, Commonwealth, and federal laws have been violated in the city by providing voluntary mediation for all the parties concerned and informing such people of local, Commonwealth, and federal agencies available to be addressed their grievances. And add 2, the commission may provide the public with contact to agents of the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination and other appropriate federal, state, and local agencies. Delete 3, work with all city departments, including the school department, commissions, and boards to increase compliance with the appropriate local, Commonwealth, and federal laws, and to raise to the level of awareness and sensitivity to the human rights issues in municipal businesses with the public. Add 3, The commission may conduct ongoing campaigns and host free public events each year to facilitate public education on diversity, discrimination, and inclusive community building as relevant to Gloucester. Add 4, improve the life of the city by enlisting individuals and community-based groups in education programs and campaigns to increase mutual self-respect, harmonious intergroup relationships, and the peaceful enjoyment of life in our diverse communities. Add 5, to promote the full integration and participation of people with disabilities in our city, activity, service, and employment opportunities of the community, and to coordinate and carry out programs in coordination with programs for the Massachusetts Office of Disability. Add 6, the commission shall not operate as an adjudicatory to investigatory body, sorry. Delete in its entirety, section 2-500, section 2-500 powers and duties. The powers and duties of the commission shall include the following: to support and assist all city departments, including the school department, commissions, and boards, in their efforts to celebrate the diversity of the city, promote tolerance, and comply with the appropriate local, commonwealth, and federal laws. 2, to publish reports and other documents. 3, to provide a public forum for hearing complaints and answers thereto in matters of alleged discrimination, and to resolve such complaints by mediation. No party to any alleged discrimination shall be compelled to appear before the commission, nor such party be compelled to submit to mediation. 4, to refer complaints of the appropriate local, commonwealth, agency to address their grievances. 5, to publish an annual report of the state of the human rights in the city, drawn from its own resources, as well as records of the city departments, including the school department, and to render to the mayor, the city council, school committee, a full written report of its activities and its recommendations no less than once a year. And adds to section 2-500 disability rights subcommittee. This commission may establish a disability rights subcommittee for the purpose of promoting the full integration and participation of people with disabilities in the city activities, services, and employment opportunities of the community, and to coordinate and carry out programs in coordination with programs in the Massachusetts Office of Disability, and I so move. Second. So if the movement seconded, this will be by roll call vote. Councilor O'Hara.
Yes.
Councilor Majota.
Yes.
Councilor Nolan, yes.
Good job reading. Thank you.
So that passes 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and that will move on to the full council for when, Sherry?
It'll need to be advertised for public hearing.
Excellent. Josh, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
There's one more.
Yep. The committee recommendation move to recommend the city council amend the Gloucester Code of Ordinances by deleting chapter 2 administration's article 5 board of committees and commissions, division 10A, disability rights commission, section 2-505, disability rights and commission established term, section 2-516, election of chairperson, rules and procedures, section 517, purposes, and 518, definition of person with a disability, section 2519, powers and duties, and section 2519.5, records in its entirety, and I so move.
Second.
So this will be by roll call vote again. We'll start with Councilor O'Hara,
Yes.
Councilor Majota,
Yes.
and Councilor Nolan. This also passes 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Have a great day.
Thank God.
All right, so next up, the motions that we have in front of us are all gonna be a committee of the whole. There's 2 ways of doing this. We can run this as the O and A taking lead on this, or if President Gilman would like to take the lead, she has a right to do as well, being the council of the whole.
So I would like to open the meeting,
Mhm.
committee of the whole for items 2, 3, and 4.
Mhm.
And would like to suggest that O and A leads the conversation. Just like we do at BNF when we have a committee of the whole. And if we decide that we want to, if you want to allow us to participate in question, the conversation, that's your prerogative. But I think
Excellent.
we should be consistent with how we always have.
Excellent.
Committee of whole. Thank you. So the meeting's open.
Well, that was a lot of work. All right, so the next part of this meeting is gonna be a little confusing. We have a lot of things that are going on. And we're all gonna have to pay attention because there's gonna be probably amendments and different things that we're gonna have to work together. And it is a committee of whole, so I do expect everybody to participate and help with the motions and make sure we come up with the best situation that we can to try to move forward to the full council. So we're gonna start with number 2. And that is CC 2023-004, Gilman Nolan, amend GCO Chapter 21, Street Sidewalks and Other Public Places, Article 1, in general, Section 21-1, prerequisite to acceptance of ways. This was referred back to O&A from City Council on June 27th, 2023, and continued from 7/31/23. So we have a motion to rescind on this. Councilor Gilman, would you like to read that, or would you like me to read that?
I have not seen that motion. Is it in the packet?
It's in
or-
the template, yes.
I haven't seen the template. Have you shared the template with all the counselors?
I did, I emailed it.
Oh, you did?
I did, yeah.
I have a
Okay.
spare one.
I have one.
That would be great if I could see that. I'm following the packet.
I have it.
Anybody else need a hot copy? So,
Thank you.
so
Never seen the template.
Okay, so. Are you gonna make this right now?
Either you or I, we're both authors on it. And this was a recommendation to motion to rescind, to combine 2 orders
Okay,
together.
okay. I guess I think you should move them because O and A is still kind of in charge, but we're participating in the conversation, so.
All right.
That would be my suggestion.
All right, so we have a motion to rescind, move to rescind the committee recommendations for CC 2023-004. Gilman Nolan to amend GCO Chapter 21, Street Sidewalks and Other Public Places, Article 1. In general, Section 21-1, prerequisites to acceptance of ways, and CC 23-016 Worthley to amend GCO Chapter Section 21, Street Sidewalks and Other Public Places, Article 1, in general, Section 21-1, prerequisites to acceptance of ways by striking current Section 21-1 and adding new Section 21-1, prerequisite of acceptance of ways. And this will be, so move.
Second.
This is a roll call vote?
Counselor,
Yes.
would it be possible if we could put this up on the screen so we can like visualize what this looks like? Is that possible?
Sherry? Hi, guys.
This helps the public to understand what we're discussing too. So,
All right. So this will be our roll call, and we'll start with Councilor O'Hara.
discussion.
No.
Hold on 1 second.
You motion the table, you're gonna discussion on the motion,
There is discussion, if you'd like to have discussion.
but are you voting to rescind the vote of O and A? Is that the first step you're taking now, or are you voting to recommend?
We're looking to rescind some stuff that we're putting forward to combine with new language under the next one.
Okay.
That it basically, it adds what you're looking for and what Council Gillum and us are looking for, wrapping it up into kind of one
But this
order.
vote is to rescind, you'll do that one next.
Exactly, so we're gonna rescind this one, and then we're gonna rescind another one, and then we're gonna move on to one that's combined.
That was a process question.
So
Thank you.
a no vote means you do want to, you do not want to rescind it, or you do want to rescind it.
Well, a no would be that that you wanna keep it going, a yes would be that it's removed. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Excellent, any other discussion from any councilors? All right, so we have Counselor O'Hara with a yes, Counselor
No,
Majota,
he said no.
you said no?
That's correct.
No,
Okay, not a problem,
Okay,
The no means he doesn't want to rescind it.
Correct,
he wants to leave it alone.
which we won't be able to move forward if you don't rescind.
okay.
So, Counselor Majota,
So yes, I want to rescind it.
excellent, Counselor Nolan, yes. So the motion,
It's a meeting of the whole.
it is, we have to go through the whole list, sorry.
Don't call us off.
Counselor,
Excuse me, but you're only rescinding the O and A committee
Oh.
recommendation,
Got it.
Yeah.
so it just needs your 3 votes, O and A,
Okay.
yeah.
so that passes to one.
And excuse me, Council Nolan, that incorporated both 004 and 016, so that just rescinded both of them, that was the language.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now we have a rescind for a special, all
No, that's what you rescinded.
right, so we're not going, yeah, so we're not going into O'Hara's one.
No, this is Gilman Nolan, and this is Worthley's.
Right.
So we've just rescinded both, and now we're gonna start fresh.
Right,
Where it says just rescind in yellow on your copy, that's just to show you what you're rescinding. And then if you go to
so now we're moving to Article 3.
number 3, that shows the vote that you just voted to rescind. And then underneath that, highlighted in yellow, where it says new recommendation, that's the new discussion.
All right, so we're gonna start off with number 3 at this point. And that would be CC 2023 016 Berkeley, amend GCO chapter 21, street sidewalks and other public places, Article 1 in general, section 21-1, prerequisites to.
No,
They're combined. Because the idea was to combine
So
them,
that's also done now too.
correct.
All right,
And the second part of number 4 is included in the new
in the
combination.
language.
Yeah.
Page 7. All right, so now we're on to new recommendations. Correct?
Correct, page 7.
Yes,
That's a question.
yes.
So if we voted not to rescind this, then what would have happened?
It would have been the same committee recommendation that's already been to city council. That was already
So-
referred
And then we
Plus.
just move it back to city
Yeah.
council the way it
Yeah,
was.
the way it was,
And then there's no need for discussion.
correct.
But this next one's gonna have quite a bit of discussion. All right, thank you, Sherry. All right, so now we're down to new recommendations from general council, combining 3 council orders. Committee recommendation, move to recommend the city council amend the Gloucester Code of Ordinances, chapter 21, street sidewalks and other public places, article 1 in general, section 21-1, prerequisites to private ways as follows. And now I'm gonna read this. Section 21-1, delete prerequisites to private ways and add acceptance of private ways. Add an A, 1, no way shall be accepted as a public way of the city unless the order for acceptance is accompanied by. Add 2, a written opinion from the mayor and the city auditor in the acceptance of the way. If neither of the mayor nor the city auditor provide an opinion within 30 days of the initiation of the order, then the council may proceed with a vote. If written opinion is submitted, it shall be read into the record prior to the council vote. Adding 3, a petition signed by 100% of the abutters, which includes a number of abutting parcels on the road, the length of the road, and map geolocation of the road. Adding 4, a statement in writing signed by the Director of Public Works, the mayor, and the city auditor, stating the sufficient funds are on hand and will be allocated for place in such a way and safe condition for travel. Adding 5, a statement as to how the road meets any of the following criteria. Adding A, connector streets between 2 public roads. Adding B, road leading to a place of interest as a community or recreational venue facility for a multi-use commercial or recreational location. Adding C, roads leading to public area to include venues such as playgrounds, schools, public landings, hiking trails, or other similar areas open to the public. Adding D, the fastest thoroughfare for public safety vehicles to pass from station or substation during an emergency. Adding E, a road that has the capacity for installation of public utilities. Adding F, the road that meets the conditions of the requirements as determined by the DPW director as being a road that is in good shape to accept as a public way. Adding D1, abutters to a private way shall begin the process of seeking the acceptance of a private way by submitting a petition to the city clerk signed by 100% of all the abutting owners to the private way. Except as outlined in section 2189D, petitioners shall use only official petition forms available from the city clerk's office upon request. 2, 3 or more abutting property owners may organize a petition for acceptance of a private way. The petition ballot with a copy of the relevant sections of the Gloucester Code of Ordinances are supplied by the city clerk, shall be mailed to all abutting owners by certified mail. Return receipt requested and notice of the petition shall be posted in the city clerk's office. A receipt of the certified mail shall be required as evidence that notice has been provided to all abutting owners. All copies, mailings, and cost of postage are the responsibility of the abutting property owners. The collection of signatures shall not span a period greater than 90 days for the post in the city clerk's office. Petitioners shall include the name and contact information for no less than 3 primary contact persons who shall also be abutting property owners to the city clerk. 3, any abutting owner may designate a proxy to represent them and sign the petition. Such a designation shall be notarized letter by abutting owner that includes the following. 1, the name and address of the abutting owner. 2, the name and address of the proxy. 3, language from the abutting owner expressly granting permission for the proxy to sign the abutting owner's behalf. 4, a copy of the proxy's valid state and federal picture identification. And 5, a copy of the abutting owner's valid state and federal picture identification. And 6, the abutting owner's signature. 4, abutting property owners or executors of the property in probate that do not respond to the initial petition request an additional 2 mailings, if necessary, of a certified mail. Return receipt requested containing a petition ballot and a copy of the relevant section of the Gloucester Code and Ordinance shall be required. If there is no response to the additional 2 certified mail, return receipt requested mailings, then the abutting property's owner vote will be considered in the affirmative. A maximum of 10% of the private ways abutting properties shall be eligible as affirmative votes as non-respondent. Abutting property owners as defined in section 21-89D. 5, if the city decides to move forward with the acceptance of the private way, all survey, engineering, and registering costs that may be required for the private way to be accepted shall be paid by the abutting property owners. any structures, walls, fences, mailbox, lampposts, driveways, etc., that are within the private way that is to be accepted are to be determined to be obstructive shall be removed at the abutting property owner's expense. And I so move.
Second,
All right, so this is up for discussion at this point, and I see some eager hands going, and I'll start with Counselor Gross. And Sherry, if you put back our committee.
Talking with legal, I'd like to amend my portion of the motion, the section 3 and 4, the one dealing with proxy, and the other one dealing with a 3 mailing and then affirmative vote considered. The city attorney informed me that would leave the city pretty exposed for a lawsuit because we're actually doing a land taking. So we would have to then, rather than where we do, for no compensation, get an easement or get the taking for no compensation, we would then be possibly exposed to a considerable expense for taking property that we were not given permission to take.
All right, so are you suggesting that we remove 3 and 4 in its
3 and 4,
entirety?
yes,
So 3 and 4 in its entirety.
yes, because
Which leaves it with 100% required.
it's like if you don't listen to a fool doesn't listen to their lawyer, is the saying, but
And yes, I believe you're right on that, Councilman.
yeah, but that a fool doesn't listen to the lawyer. No, yes, in its entirety, because, and with the prices of land today and the, when people were more community minded and, giving up something for the community was more accepted than it is in today's climate. But this jury would probably find in whoever property owner's favor for a considerable amount of money. So I think that, it needs to be, while I try to accommodate, other concerns about not getting it done, I think truly, if you are trading on people's private property, they need to be able to make that decision that you're allowed to.
All right, so I think that we need to have a vote for this amendment, correct? So I'd like to recommend.
Can I
that
ask,
we-
Mr. President, or Mr. Chairman, can we have that back up on the screen so we can see it while we're talking about it? Thank you. All right, thank you.
All right, is there any other discussion on removing of number 3 and 4?
So you've made an amendment?
I make a motion to the amendment.
Motion to the
I just want to make sure there's no more discussion before we actually make the motion for the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to address any concerns that anybody might have over those deleting those amendments. I think I've been sort of advocating all along in this process to make sure that we reduce any risk of liability to the city. But I'm happy to discuss that if anybody has any questions about that.
Excellent, thank you, Suzanne. All right, so then I guess I'd like to make a motion that remove section 3 and 4 from this motion.
Second.
Can I just ask a procedural question? My understanding is that this is still O&A voting only. We all have an opportunity to discuss it, but the vote is for O&A. Because then it goes to the full committee.
Right.
So I think the discussion is just, the discussion is just the liberty of us being able to discuss it. But that the full vote will be when it goes to the full committee. Right now, we're participating in the discussion, because it's more like a kind of like a workshop.
Having a great discussion.
Of course, it does, we can see it on there and it's helpful, and we're making progress, but I think that it's
You want to
just
limit the
your,
votes to
I think
the
it's just the
committee.
three of you that are voting.
All right, so I
I
do
rescind my
believe you're
second.
right.
Thank
I
you.
do believe you're right, Council President. So I need a second from our
I'll
committee.
second.
Second by Frank, and this will be,
Hold on, there also, if this is going to pass, there's another section in B1 that has, in the third line, it says except as outlined in section 89D, 2189D. So no, I think that just talks about abutters.
so on B1 it does, yeah,
Correct, but
but it's still got 2189D.
may I explain, Councilman Owen?
Yes, you can.
That was taken from your council order number 4. Agenda item number 4, where you had referenced section 2189.
Yeah.
So that 2189 is now part of this motion. Part of this council,
Okay, so
yeah,
it needs to come out of
Yeah.
that. Okay.
So we need to remove that one as well.
that, yeah, the line that he said, yes.
All right,
Also, Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Grow.
I just want to make sure that there's a couple other issues earlier on that I'd like to ask about. So we're just doing the one amendment, correct, at this point?
We're doing the one, we have an amendment on the floor right now for 3 and 4.
Very good.
And in question is also B1, as also being part of that. But I think that we're gonna have to vote the amendment we had in the floor, because we have been seconded and stuff, and then we can come back and discuss B1 on that.
Right, and I have something else too.
So with the amendment that's on the floor is to remove 3 and 4. And this will be a roll call vote. It has been seconded by Councilor Majota, and we'll start with Councilor O'Hara.
Yes,
Councilor Majota?
Yes.
Okay, so that passes 3 in favor, 0 opposed. On the next point that was brought up is to make an amendment to remove B1 from,
Not the whole thing.
right, we want to remove petitioners shall use, no?
No, except as outlined.
Third line, period after private way, and then remove except as outlined in section 2189.
Yeah.
Period after private way.
Right on red.
So we are gonna remove or make a motion that we remove in section B1, except as outlined in section 2189D, and I so move.
second,
All right, so it has been moved and seconded, and this will be a roll call. Councilor O'Hara,
yes,
Councilor Majota,
Yes.
Councilor Nolan, yes. That's 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Now we have a question from Councilor Gilman.
So you just voted this, right?
Just, yeah.
So I'd like, I can't move it, but I would like to tell you what I'd like for us to consider to move. On 21-1, section 2. A written opinion from the mayor, and remove city auditor and add director of public works. In the next section, if neither the mayor nor the delete city auditor and add director of public works. And I'd like to recommend that somebody moves this for the purpose of discussing at O&A.
So,
And then if I could be part of that discussion when we
No.
move it.
The chair has spoken.
so we have a motion on the floor that we want to change from
I'll move it.
the language
Right, this
from
one.
the auditor to the Department of Public Works Director.
That's what I'm asking somebody
Right.
to move.
Yeah, and
I'll move it. And I so move.
excellent. So now we're into
I
discussion.
didn't make the motion though.
I just did.
Oh, you did, okay, great, all right. So here's my discussion, okay,
Second.
Do you want a
A
second?
second?
okay, great. So I'm not sure why the city auditor plays a role in this function. And I think the person that is most qualified to understand all the status and the details of the way, the public way, where we're going, is the Director of Public Works. So that's why I think the auditor doesn't really play a role, but yet the mayor, who oversees the budget, and to whom the Director of Public Works reports, would be the team that would make the decision. And that's why I think that that is one small change that I would suggest that O&A considers.
Excellent.
Councilor Nolan, General Counsel has her hand up to speak.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that maybe I can just give a little idea to everybody of what we've done here with this proposed ordinance or proposed motion and combining all the three. We took Councilor Worthley's, or Sherry and I worked together on this. So Councilor Worthley's proposed amendment to that, and that's included in the section that you're discussing right now, where there's a request for a written opinion from the city auditor and the mayor. And then the next sections are those proposed by, I believe it was Councilor Nolan and Councilor Gilman. And in that, A2, it provides, that also provides on A4, it is a statement in writing signed by the Director of Public Works, Mayor, and City Auditor, stating that sufficient funds are on hand and will be allocated for placing such way in a safe condition for travel. So those two are, a little bit redundant, but I just wanted to note that we already have a provision in there that says that the Director of Public Works will offer his opinion on this, and that the city auditor will also offer an opinion on this. And I think that the operative portion of, or the distinguishing portion of A2 is that what it says is that if an opinion is not offered within 30 days, the council will move forward regardless of whether or not that opinion is submitted. So I think that's the major distinguishing characteristics as opposed to who's offering the opinion.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Councilor?
Councilor Gilman.
Thank you. So going back to this, which is on the screen and helpful for everybody to visualize, it seems to me as if the intent of number 2, a written opinion from the mayor and the Public Works Director is what I'm saying on the acceptance of the way, is the appropriateness of that part, right? The next matter, which is what is stating under 4, which is already there, it says a statement in writing signed by the Director of Public Works, the mayor and the city auditor, stating that sufficient funds are on hand. I'm not sure why the Director of Public Works would need to be on that one, because clearly, if it's about sufficient funds, that's where I think the city auditor should be, right? And even the CFO and the mayor, and I'm not sure why the Director of Public Works would need to be in that, but I think the Director of Public Works definitely has to be in the first one, because that's the acceptance of the way. So I'm just throwing that out for discussion, because I think this is helpful that we're going through this process of combining the two, because we're trying to do the best of the best, and we just need to think this through intellectually of what it means. Does that make sense? In terms of what I just suggested?
It does, and Council Worthley, do you have any?
Sure. Overall, I think we've put a lot of work, everyone's put a lot of work. It's Council Nolan, you have Council Gilman, the Private Roads Working Committee, so my piece is a very small piece of all the work that's already been done, so I don't wanna hijack any more time than necessary on this. The change I introduced came from the existing ordinance, which includes the Public Works Director, the Mayor, and the City Auditor. And the advice that I got was, since the DPW Director works for the Mayor wouldn't just have an opinion without necessarily consulting with his or her staff. It would make sense to have the City Auditor weigh in, because that's where the financial piece comes into it. But I think the overall picture is, the current ordinance is, no ways shall be accepted as public ways of the city unless the order for acceptance is accompanied by a statement in writing signed by the Director of Public Works, the Mayor, and the City Auditor, stating that sufficient funds are on hand, will be allocated for placing such way in safe condition for travel. So that's the financial piece. That's why I don't think the DPW needs to be involved in the yes, money's on here or not, because the big thing is, as a member of Budget and Finance, and I know that Councilor Member, I think, and Councilor Gross will confirm, there is no fund set aside for fixing a private road before it's made public. So the answer would always be zero. There's no money set aside in the city budget for maintaining or for bringing a road that's in disrepair up to a good standard in order to accept it. So why would we even have that be a barrier? And it literally says here that we can't take a vote until we get that letter. Well, there would be never, the answer would always be there's no money set aside. So the amendment came from the existing ordinance, which says Public Works Director, the Mayor, and the City Auditor, and I move forward. So, see, I didn't see this, I wasn't involved in the drafting the template, and I know there's been some discussions, but this is the first that I've been part of it, so I'm happy part of it. But I think to say yes, DPW Director here, no DPW Director here, the Mayor is in charge of administration, the City Auditor is our access to knowing whether we have the money to do this, or would it, in a perfect world, the citizens live in a private way, they've bettered their street. And so the auditor would say, yeah, it doesn't cost us any money because there's no repair. So I don't know about an amendment to the original amendment, right? I just stick to, let's make it so that the council can take a vote on accepting a private way. And since there's never been money set aside, not make that a barrier. The one change I would recommend to my own order is that I put in 30 days. I think some of the discussion we said 60 days would give the administration a little more time to get back to the council, given the timing of our meetings and those such things. So that's an amendment that I would like this committee to consider. The Council Gilman's amendment, I don't disagree with that the DPW Director should be involved. But to have a separate letter signed by the DPW Director, I don't know if that's just, I would assume that the mayor would, whoever mayor is consulting with DPW Director on this decision. So that's my input.
Excellent, thank you, Council Worthley. Councilor Gross.
Yeah, I think, the point of the auditor being in section 2 is relevant. The point that Councilor Worthley just made about the mayor would obviously consult with the DPW director. And then in section 4, the Public Works Director, it's his budget. And I think that that's where that comes into play on the funding piece, is because it would be coming out of his budget. So I think that's important to keep him in that piece. Also because, he would be able to say whether or not there could be, funds, because it may be the road could be brought into condition under temporary repair. Is a possibility if the road is in good condition. It just happens to be a road that fits all the criteria, and it may be in that good condition, or it may have been bettered, at the beginning of this whole process. And there may be a little bit of breakdown, and it may still be, just needs some temporary repair to be brought into safe travel conditions. So I think it's important to keep him there. And the auditor.
So not making either of those proposed changes.
Right. That's how I feel. I think
It's written the way it is, and it works. All right,
Councilor Nolan,
yes,
Councilor Grow has his hand up.
Councilor Grove.
Yeah, thank you. My logic mind is going crazy here. I don't know how I've got a lot of problem with the way that 2 and 4 are in here together. for a couple reasons. One, first off, I agree that 30 days is too short. We have to be able to give the administration a longer period of time. However, if you have a situation where a written opinion from the mayor and the city auditor is required for the acceptance of the public way, a written opinion, and they do not provide one, why are they going to provide one in section 4? Because you also need a statement in writing signed by the DPW director, the mayor, and the city auditor stating the sufficient funds are in hand. But if you don't get one, if they're not going to give you one in number 2, why are they going to give you one in number 4? So you've got 2 layers of the same requirement for a letter from the administration effectively and our city auditor, but more importantly from the administration saying, you know, if we don't give you an opinion, right, you're going to go ahead and give a vote. And fine, let's say the council votes affirmatively to accept the private way. Then you get down to number 3, a petition signed by the butters, which actually I think ought to be number 2, but that you know, otherwise, why are we talking about this? And then you get to number 4, and the very people that you've asked for the letter before, and you circumvented by having a vote of your own, you're asking them to give you a letter stating that you have sufficient funds on hand. That doesn't make any sense to me. I've got some other issues with number 5, but I think we got to figure out 2, 3, and 4, because 2 and 4 bump into each other, and 3 ought to be ahead of the 2 and 3. Otherwise, why are we even getting a letter from the mayor and the city auditor? I think they're out of order. But I also don't think 2 and 4, they bump up against each other, and you either have to combine them into one or figure out a way to make it so that if there is a city council vote that allows a circumvention of the mayor's authority on this, that you can then circumvent them in terms of the budgetary aspect of this, which I'm not sure that we really want to be doing as a council, is saying, okay, the mayor said no, the auditor is not sure, the DPW director said no, but damn it, let's do it anyway. I think you've got a problem with that. And I think you could have a real issue if you had an aggressive council that decided that they were just going to start taking roads public without the acceptance of the mayor and the city auditor and the DPW director. You're going to put yourself into a real pickle. And I just wonder if that's really what we intend to be doing with this ordinance. I'm done.
Thank you, Councilor Grow. So,
Councilor
Worthley.
First of all, there's nothing wrong, Councilor Crowe, with your logic processing tonight. You're on point, and I give you credit because it's a lot. I'm adjusting as we're going here. I had no involvement with adding number 4. That was added into a template that I wasn't part of. So my initial order, which I think is what's on the table, doesn't include that. So I'm not sure how it got to this point. So I agree, Councilor Grow, we wouldn't say in section 2, if the mayor doesn't get back to us or DPW director, we wouldn't then say, and then you have to ask them again or separately. And I just want to be very clear for the record. I think Councilor Grow, you weren't necessarily assuming this, but the intention is not to circumvent anybody. I think that the intention is to eliminate the ability, right? So if the city council is a legislative body and a mayor were to be aggressive and say, well, I'm not going to give an answer, just to keep it from vote, because the current ordinance says we can't take a vote if there's no answer. Then you could have a mayor, and I'm not making it saying this mayor, the mayor could hijack the council process by saying, I'm not gonna give an opinion. Either way, and then we couldn't vote. This just gives us the ability to vote if there is no opinion offered to us. So no intention to be aggressive in accepting public roads randomly. So I agree with Councilor Grow, adding 4. I don't know where it came from, it's not my order. I do think changing it to 60 days gives them an advantage to a little bit more time.
Councilor Nolan.
1 second, Councilor Grow. We're going to go with Councilor President.
So I've got a procedural question for you. I'm just really getting my arms around this combined document. So I'm wondering if we should continue this so we can all take a better look at this. Go back, look at the minutes that we've had from the past meetings where we got this far, because we made some momentum with this, right? And take a look at everyone's comments and then come back better prepared to look at what's in front of us to make the best possible decisions. Unless, you know, I'm just feeling a little bit that this is kind of, this is a lot. My heart's kind of going fast right now because we're moving fast and this has taken a long time to get to with a lot of work and thought. So I guess I'm just feeling like we're moving a little bit faster than my brain is ready to comprehend what all this means.
I understand what you're saying, but I also think that we've been beating this drum for
You're right,
6 months.
you're
and,
right.
I don't want something that just comes to ONA and dies. We have some good dialogue tonight. We have a great council and I think that we can work on it at council as well. It's delicate, there's a lot of moving parts and some things that are quite simple. Tony's deduction of 3 and 4 in the accepted outlined in section 2189D confirms a lot of things. I understand the 2 and 4 bring in and keep in the auditor and the DPW director at the same sense. I do believe there are some other questions such as the time, the 60 days versus 30. But I think that even with removing my recommendation or Frank's appointment to add the DPW director from auditor because of what insight with Suzanne to with 4 being there with both articles of this. Maybe Frank would like to withdraw that. And I think that we should send this to council and have the final touches there. That gives us all a fair time frame to come up with what's going on, but it's been back and forth to committee, and I think that we've come a long way since when everything was together. And I think that we need to do our work at council on this, and people have plenty of time to figure out what's going on with it. So without any objections to the committee, I would like to put this forward to the council.
Excuse me, Chuck. You still have an amendment on the floor.
Oh, you have to rescind it if you'd like to. And that would be the one. Withdraw, yes. And so there's no, with the recommendations of removing section of B1 and section 3 and 4 to send this to the council for a vote. Oh, sorry, Jason Grove.
Yeah, I wanted to get this out there before I forget it, because I will forget it. I think that getting back to my concern about 2 and 4 being kind of butting up against each other, I think this whole thing needs to be reordered, and that it needs to be reordered in such a way that you have almost a step-by-step procedure, which is that, you know, the first line says no way shall be accepted as public ways of the city unless the order for acceptance is accompanied by, and then you say a petition signed by 100% of the abutters. Because if you don't have a petition with 100% of the abutters, you don't go any farther. Then secondly, you have a statement as to how the road meets the following criteria. If it doesn't meet those criteria, you don't go any further. So that becomes your number 2, your number 3, excuse me. Number 2 and number 4 have to be figured out because they compete with each other. I don't think it makes any sense. And I would just say that I'm still a little concerned. I wasn't suggesting, Councilor Worthley, that anybody's got any insidious viewpoints here or intentions, but if the council can vote something all at once, if there's no money to fund something, I guess the question is, what's the point? So I'm really still a little concerned about the sort of idea that we can initiate it even in opposition to the administration and potentially our own auditor if we so chose. And I'm still a little troubled by that. And I would love it if maybe, I don't know if Suzanne's got an opinion on that, but I do wonder if we sort of are blurring that line between administrative and legislative and whether or not we need to get that resolved. I don't remember what's past 5, but that's sort of what I'm thinking. I think that we're out of sequence here.
Excellent, thank you, Council Grow. Council Worthley did have his hand up.
Thank you,
before.
Councilman Nolan.
Councilman Meadvine next.
Thank you. So, Councilor, I respect your wondering about the blurring lines. Because we never put money aside for private roads acceptance, it can't be a barrier for us accepting road, but my thinking is we're accepting roads that are in good condition because they've been bettered on. So this isn't a circumvention or whatnot. This is saying, okay, if a street's been bettered, we should be making a decision to accept it, provided all the other conditions are met. And not depend on a letter from the mayor to say, yeah, it's in good shape, right? So, and regarding the conflict between 2 and 4, I don't know where 4 came from. That wasn't in my order. There hasn't been an amendment to what I wrote, so I don't know where this second one, the second statement of writing signed for the Director of Public Works, that wasn't in, do you know where it came from, Councilor?
We actually, this order is from 3 orders.
But my order didn't have that budget. Anybody else have one on the?
I think it's in the original,
Yes.
it's in the original prerequisite. for
Black
taking public
because
Yeah, but I wrote to delete that.
Yeah, but
That's my order, was to delete that and add in a letter within 60 days. But then this is back in and adding another statement of writing signed by all these people. Where'd that come from? For a council legislative process, that wasn't.
It's in Nolan's and Gilman's order.
I think mine's deleting that.
I understand that, but this is a combination of the orders.
we're trying to.
Attempt to
I
recon.
get it.
But, yeah.
So why, they're new.
So now you can say,
So on page
you wanna say
11,
get rid of 4.
Right.
page 11 of the packet, you can see
Councilor Nolan.
where it is.
I'll have Suzanne come in to answer that question, then we'll go to Council Memhard.
Yes, so 4 comes, as you've already discussed it, I had my hand up and I was just wanted to let the council know that what I did in creating this was to take everything that's proposed, right? Everything that's proposed and the existing, that 4 is on the existing code of ordinances now, that's where that came from. Councilor Worthley's proposal is number 2, and then 5 and 3 and 5 are Councilor Nolan and Councilor Gilman. So what I tried to do here is just put everything before the council in one document so that you all didn't have to spend your time tonight trying to do that yourselves. And in terms of reordering and combining, number 2 can be combined with number 4 and we can reorder that. That would be an administrative process that I can assist you with if you want me to. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Memhard.
Yeah, what Suzanne just said, I think is helpful, and it dovetails with what Councilor Grow had said earlier. I agree 100% that the preamble, the first sentence here should be that the petition is submitted, signed by 100% of the abutters. These other parts get into issues of the city's liability and responsibility once that road is being accepted, is being considered as accepted. My experience has been limited to betterment petitions where you're seeking permission to borrow money financed by the abutters agreement to pay over time that allows the treasurer to go out and bond these things. In this case, it's a little different. There needs to be some acceptance by the mayor on behalf of the DPW and the either auditor or CFO, but it seems to me that, in many cases, if you think back to the past private roads that we have in fact taken public in the last 8 years that I've been on the council, Lawndale Circle. It's not a recent betterment, it's a brand new development built to subdivision standards with sidewalks, adequate width. And so we accepted that upon a petition review process and didn't entail any financial exposure for the city. So that was a no-brainer in terms of accepting as a public way a previously private subdivision. So I think that we're not just talking about taking existing private roads and making them public that are in poor shape. There's a whole other scenario recent new developments that meet our standards that were privately developed, but the city is willing and doesn't have any liability to then accept as public.
Excellent, thank you, Councilor Rose.
So, I mean, the topic of, no money in the budget, that's in the current year that the road is accepted. Now, if that road is accepted, the administration is on board with that acceptance of that road, the money that road will have to be into the calculation of our funding of road maintenance. So it's always going to be a future funding issue. It's not going to be a current funding issue, no matter what, because it just won't be in that year's schedule when it gets, when the budget, is in play. Right now, the budget's in play. The roads that are being paved are in the schedule. This year's set. So it'll always be for the next budget cycle that the administration will have to say, all right, well, we can work that in be considered into the mileage of public roads from here on in for maintenance. And so I think that the fact that there's not money for acceptance of private ways, there's never going to be money for acceptance of private ways. What you're going to have is in the future budgets, is budgets for maintaining and repaving public ways is what you're going to have. So that's where the consideration needs to come in about as far as budget goes. It's never going to be currently in a budget. It's always going to be, because it's always a future budget consideration.
Excellent, thank you, Councilor Gross.
So,
Suzanne's got her hand up.
Thank you. I'd just like to point out one thing to the council. Just one of the reasons why there is a discussion about the funding for this is that once the city accepts a road as a public road, then the city is obligated to keep it safe for public road. And the city also takes on all of the risk of liability. So when it's a private road and it's in really poor condition and there's a traffic accident and there's an injury, or it's not the city's liability, it's not the taxpayers that are paying for that. But as soon as it's accepted as a public road, we do have our statutory immunities and all the rest of it under the Tort Claims Act, but it does become an obligation of the city. So there is that risk of liability that we're taking on. And that's partly why you would look to determine whether you have that funding to make it safe for travel, and also whether to take on that increased liability. Thank you.
thank you, Suzanne.
Chairman?
Is that Councilor?
Gross?
Grow.
Councilor Brown.
Yeah, I guess that would, we're basically operating at this point under the position that any road that we're going to accept is going to be in good condition. And that Jeff is right in the sense that Tony's right in the sense that there's no immediate burden to the city coffers in terms of getting it up to passable, acceptable conditions, but that we are essentially writing a long-term check for future maintenance and obligations to that road. And that's why we need to make sure that when the road is accepted by the council, that it is up to standards of the DPW. Adding F is when it says that the road meets the conditions of the requirements is determined by the DPW director, ought to also be up there under the petition signed by 100%. And what was the other one? The conditions, I guess. But that ought to be like number one condition, that it has to be in good condition for the city to accept it anyway. Can we move very quickly to below adding 5? Because I think there was something with number 6 too that was. No, I don't really want to get into that right now. But
There is on the next paragraph.
yeah, no, I know there's not 6. I thought, well, I read it once, so I was going by that. But anyway, I'm going back to the point, which is I hearing Suzanne's argument that we are essentially biting off an obligation for the future. And Tony's, funding issues, he's right. We're not going to be, nothing's going to be immediate. We are essentially taking on an obligation for a generation 10 years or 20 years from down the road. And that we need to be thoughtful about.
Excellent, thank you, Councilor Grow.
Counselor President Gilman.
Yeah, let me just kind of confuse things right now. So I think the most difficult thing that we have in front of us right now is that we all know that the Chapter 90 fund that we get every year is only enough money for 40-year repaving for all the public roads rather than 20, right? And we also know that in this year's budget approved by the state, we really didn't get any more than what we've had in the past, which is 200 million, right, for the whole state. So that means that we're gonna get about 680 again next year for all of our public roads, right, which is huge, right? I mean, which is not very much. It's not huge, it's not nearly enough. Mike says that we need about 1.8 million to be able to do what we need to do. So that means that we're always relying on, like, this past year, we took 10%, 5% from two parts of the free cash distribution to give ourselves some extra money, right? So it's such a challenge in terms of finding the money, because until we get the state to give us more Chapter 90, we're all working under a deficit, right, on all of this. So it's very frustrating because we really didn't make any headway with all the support that we were trying to give as a council. Remember, we all talked about needing to get at least 350 million, and we didn't get that. So it's a problem because we just don't have enough money. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit off track, but this is part of what we're talking about right now, which is very difficult, you know, but that's it. It's just a little bit of frustration that I have with the state funding for Chapter 90. It's a problem for us in Gloucester.
All right, so
Going through different things just now,
the past half an hour, through the committee, I think we have information where we need to go. There's some numbering issues. Would the O&A committee like to bring this back and have us renumber and allocate the final draw we did before we sent it to full council? Because some things are out of order and some things have been clarified. But it's not a time
sensitive thing.
and I can understand what Councilor Grow has said. It doesn't make sense to start one off in one way and follow through. Or do you want to put this through and have the same type of situation happen at council? Because I think that we can take the information we have. I can work with Suzanne and the other participates of this with Tony and Jeff and Val and put things to order in a little bit cleaner for us to bring back to O&A for a regular meeting at the next O&A meeting, and then vote to put this forward to full council.
Looking for opinions?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. There's been a lot said by all the counselors. This has certainly created an ice cream headache. I believe that we should not be voting on this tonight. We need to, as Counselor Counselor Grow, excuse me, cleaning this up, trying to get things in order. We're dealing with as Counselor Gilman has said, that this is a major issue. Just the roads that are presently public within the city getting funding. I think the private roads, the Lawndale Circle, that's a new road that was constructed as has been said under criteria that's already established. Most of the roads are private for public use in the city, and we don't need to beat it to death, but are goat paths that are now moving traffic. So I think we need to clean this up. I think it's very evident from the great discussion we've had tonight. But I don't think we should be wasting time at full council discussing something and try and clean things up that we should be doing at a subcommittee level. Thank you.
So thank you, Council Majota. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Very well said, Councilor O'Hara. I was gonna say pretty much the same thing. I think we just probably have to just withdraw this for now or bring it back.
Continue it.
Yeah, I withdraw it, sorry, I'm not making anything up. But I just want to, yeah.
You want to start again?
Let's start all again. Each was, but I think it's time. I think we need to reword it. I like, that would be great, Councilor O'Hara.
So Sherry, if you could put this on for the next O&A, I'll reach out to the sponsoring parties and Suzanne, and we'll work together with you as well to get a template that fits and makes sense.
The next O&A is Labor Day, so there's no meeting, so then the following is September 18th.
I believe that works for me. Works for all of us.
I just want to point out on the amendments that you did vote, that the sections will be renumbered accordingly.
Thank you.
Awesome. Does anybody have a problem with taking a 3-minute break?
No, except the committee of the whole, we need to do something differently with us voting to close our part of the meeting.
We're still going.
We're still going.
We've got more ahead.
Let's do it 4 and 5.
Just for,
Just 4, sorry.
2, 3, 4, right?
Yeah.
So I guess we're gonna take that 3-minute break.
Okay.
Thank you.
And there's gonna be a bigger line in men's room than there is in the ladies' room. Sorry.
There's always a bit.
Still, an ordinance is being written. And the rate.
So kind of a logic.
Right, so. Good question, I want to be sensitive to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yours discussed as not happening, so.
I think we're back with the council, right?
Earlier.
Probably, I was trying to recall. I never take my shirt off. Driving a golf cart all day yesterday.
I saw the picture, yeah. Michael was just telling me that they wouldn't let people park out here.
Oh, well, mass development.
No.
But they had a good chauffeur.
Yes.
You guys ready to go back?
I'm used to it, right?
We haven't done
Sherry?
that, we haven't started.
Ready?
Alrighty, thank you for
Going back
to the O and A meeting. Thank you for the break.
it's kind of nice going outside listening to
And smell the water, that's for sure. So next up is number 4, CC 2023-041, gross amend GCO chapter 21, street sidewalks and other public places by amending a new article 5, petition for
alterations of a private
way. So I'm gonna read this. We're gonna move to recommend the
city council amend the Gloucester Code of Ordinances, chapter 21, street sidewalks and other public places by adding a
new article 5,
entitled
petition
for alteration of
private ways as follows.
Article 5, petition for alterations of a
Private way, 2187 purpose. Purpose of this article is to provide abutters of private ways as defined in 21-80B1, a means to petition the city per
Mass General
Law, Chapter 90, Section 18, to petition for regulating
and for acceptance of a
private way. Section 21-88, regulating parking, speed limit, and traffic on a private way. Any expense set forth in this article is subject to the availability of funding in
the authorization
for said funding must be made by recommendations of the mayor and majority vote of the city council.
Not majority,
No, it is.
It is majority, it's correction. Sorry, I should have
not on this
said correction.
template.
No. So that was a correction to template from 2/3 to majority. B, abutters to a private way who wish to post stop or yield sign and regulate parking and speed limit on all private ways shall submit a petition to the city clerk's request and city council consideration. Petition shall be signed by no less than 75% of the abutting property owners of the private way. only one signature per abutment property. All signatures shall be verified by the city clerk. Petitioners shall only
Official petition forms.
available from the city clerk's office upon request. All copies, mail-ins, and cost of postage are the responsibility of the abutment property owners.
Petitions shall
Include the name, contact information for no less than 3 primary contact people who shall be abutment property owners to the city clerk. Following a public hearing, the city council will vote on approval of actions stated on petition. This requires a majority vote from the city council for approval. And I so move. And do we have discussion?
Second.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. You want me to talk? Since I proposed it?
Yes, sir.
So this came up, because there was some discussion about, what's the vehicle for people who live on a private way, under the law to be able to regulate their own street. And if they want to have, resident only parking, no parking, if they want to have no parking this side, if they want to do a yield in the middle of the street, if they have there's 2 cross streets that happen to be in there, if they want to put it and they want a stop sign. And then also speed limit, but the curious thing about speed limits is you usually have to go to the state to get approval. But according to Chapter 90, Section 18, for private ways for public use or described in, the definition that's in 21, our ordinance is 21, Chapter 2180, Section 80B1. You don't have to go to the state. You can simply just go to the city council. So it was interesting because when we wanted to put a speed limit on my street, I was informed that no, I had to go to the state. But then I found out quite the opposite. We could just petition city council, and you'll probably be getting a petition from my street if this is adopted. So it gives the people who have the responsibility of maintaining the street, of paying for everything, self-govern. So that's what this is, what prompted this.
Do we have any other council questions? Council Grow?
I got so many questions. Actually, I don't have that many questions. A couple questions that I do have. How can we limit a petition to only one signature per abutting property? What if my wife and I disagree on this issue? We both maintain ownership of the property. One of us has to give up our rights to make a declaration on the petition. I don't think that's, I mean, Suzanne can answer that question, but it seems to me kind of interesting that any voting, a registered to vote member of the community who owns property should have the right to put their name on the petition.
If I may?
Yeah.
If I may answer that, this has nothing to do with registered voters. And also when you pay your betterment, it's 1 vote per abutting property. So this mirrors that. If you guys disagree, then, whoever prevails within your own little,
Yeah, but I would argue that the payment of a betterment is different than changing what is essentially the operation of the street, and that yes, it's one betterment because it's one property, but in terms of petitions, when you're trying to get something passed, I don't see them quite the same way, to be honest with you. But I'm going to move on to the next thing.
If I may answer that.
Sure.
It would give undue weight to a family of 6 compared to a family of 1. And you have the same responsibility of the street. So it would actually tip the scales unfairly. So I think that this is a good measure to keep the scales even.
So you're really essentially creating a homeowners association for your road.
It's a good idea. It's what you have to do a betterment.
Right, Suzanne, does that jibe with how you view it from a legal perspective?
Thank you. No, I wouldn't say it's creating a homeowners association.
No, I'm not saying that. I didn't mean that specifically, but it sounds like one property, one vote is different than if 2 or 3 people live in the same property, they might have different viewpoints.
No, absolutely. So it's a decision that's being made that to have one property, one vote versus having every property owner sign the petition and be in favor of it.
Okay.
So that's true. 2 different ways to approach the same problem. And I think there are pros and cons to both. So I think that's a decision for the council.
All right.
not necessarily
The next question I have is at what point does regulation of your private road and the city's responsibility or willingness to plow it come into effect? Does affecting parking regulations or access regulations or anything else, does that inhibit the city's willingness to continue to plow it? Because my understanding is that in order for the city to plow the private ways, there basically has to be uninhibited passage of that road year round. And that why some of the seasonal places that have seasonal restrictions during the summer, they don't like people coming on the road, aren't plowed, is because that they are restricting access to the public access to the private way. And I guess I would ask, if we pass this, should we warn people that that's a potential outcome for their results, that they may end up losing their right to having their roads plowed?
So I can address that issue.
Yeah,
So
please.
what this, and I do this is Councilor Gross's proposed amendment. So, but I will address sort of the legal aspect of it. What this ordinance, the effect of this ordinance is to set up a process on how to petition the city council to adopt regulations for private ways, and those ways that have to meet the definition of a dedicated private way that has the public pass and repass on that. So then once the people undertake that process, then it goes to the council to make the legislative decision as to whether or not to adopt an ordinance that is requested. And in that adoption of the ordinance, that's when those questions and decisions are made. Is this the type of regulation for the private way that has any unintended consequences, such as plowing? Or is this something that's going to make the road less safe for travel or whatnot? So that's where those decisions are made. This is just setting up.
So this is just getting in the door.
Getting in the door. How do you get in the door? How do you get before
Okay.
council to
All
make
right,
that
fair enough.
decision?
I can accept that. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Grow,
I'm done.
Councilor Grow.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
So I did talk to Mike Yale about this, and there's a large possibility that any of these measures can exclude you from city services such as plowing. To regulate parking without the city council's decision would take away your plowing rights. The opening of the door of this is one thing, but you're 100% right that people need to understand that certain things do affect the way that Mike and the DPW can treat your road. So it's a tough decision, but there may be some consequences where people want to do something where they lose their city services for doing what they did for their
So
actions.
can I ask a follow-up question to that very quickly?
Yes, you can.
Does it matter? I guess if the council approves an order or a request, does that negate that potential problem, or does it just says, okay, this is what you wanted, we're going to give it to you, but here's the consequence, you're going to lose your plowing?
So that's a complicated question, and that's one of the reasons why that I think I'm going to be bringing this back to us and asking Mike to be with us as well, Suzanne. If you restrict parking to anybody that is not, like, you can't say no parking at all. You can say, you can ask to have resident only parking, but if you restrict it to no parking, then you will lose your plowing
In your services from the city.
from what I gather from Mike. And that's why I'd like to bring this back with Mike Hale to talk to us with Suzanne, because there's some different side steps that happen that are a little bit more confusing.
I mean, I think that's a smart thing to do, is to bring Mike Hale, the director of DPW, into this conversation, because you're right, if you restrict your road in such a way, that could affect the public services available. Whether or not restricting any parking on a street turns it into a private way is, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if there are streets that say no parking, and that may be for public safety reasons. So it may be, it'll really look at how is that road being treated. Is it all of a sudden becoming more like a private way where the public is restricted? And then that's when you start talking about plowing and city services. And so I think that it would be helpful to have Mike Hale here to discuss this and the process.
Excellent, thank you, Suzanne. We're gonna go to Scott, Councilman Memhard.
No, just generally speaking, I think this is a very helpful step forward. In Ward 1, there are a lot of private ways, and people are concerned partly about parking violations and beach parking on people's ways in a way that limits emergency vehicle access or creates a problem getting out of their own driveway, but particularly as to speed limits. And if this helps some of our local small streets on the shoreline to effectively limit legally the speed limits without going through the state or doing a traffic commission or a speed study and then submitting things, this would be very, very much appreciated by a large number of constituents that I'm aware of.
As well as in my ward. We'll go on to Councilor Gilman.
So I've got a question just procedurally.
Mhm.
So what we put forth in the consent agenda back around July 11th, we've made several changes all of a sudden tonight.
Mhm.
We've amended 2/3 vote to majority,
Mhm.
and we also deleted traffic commission recommendation.
Mhm.
So I think it would be helpful to understand why those changes have been made. So we can all understand how these came to being from what we approved on the consent agenda to what we discussed today. And I think there were some,
On the 2/3, the majority was actually the proper vote for that. Not from it wasn't 2/3, it has to be a majority vote on this type of matter.
okay, so that was just a legal recommendation,
Yeah.
okay,
And then as far as the traffic commission,
yeah,
I can answer that.
go ahead, Councilor Gross.
So I put the traffic commission in, but Suzanne said, no, it doesn't, this does not fall under that requirement,
Okay.
under that law. So I was just, chapter 90, section 18, she said, no, that does not apply here. So.
okay, so the process
So
was
Suzanne-
recommendation from,
Suzanne,
because
yeah,
this went
process
to,
was the
because
recommendation.
it was recommended to refer to
from
legal, and legal said
Legal,
that, okay.
legal referred
So-
that was the legal's referral.
Okay, so
Or-
that,
or
so that's helpful.
recommendation.
I just
So,
think
yeah,
we should be
and so
clear.
is the majority vote, 2/3. That was
Excellent.
both legal, they were both legal recommendations.
Councilor Jota.
So with this potential, could residents limit access to that street with?
Then they
Or,
would lose all privileges.
so, for example, if residents by one of the a beach wants to say no residents, no other people are allowed on the street, they could get 75% of the people on the street to limit access to anyone to go on their street.
This does not
Okay,
address that.
okay.
That's addressed under a whole other set of
Well, no,
statutes.
Okay, and this for the speed limit, could they make it to whatever, or they would have to follow still, like, they can't make their street 50 miles an hour because they want to? Or could they within this?
They could bring that forward.
I've never had anybody ever ask to go faster.
I'm just asking.
They could.
I think
how
Council Worthy
low can we
always,
go?
I think Council Worthy said, like, he's like, you always think sometimes different questions, maybe, I don't know.
I use an example.
So I just want to make sure I
Unintended
see both sides.
If I may use an example of my street, okay. we requested 15 miles an hour. We were advised the state would not approve 15 miles an hour. 15 miles an hour is appropriate on my street. It's narrow with many blind turns. And so it's by default 25 miles an hour. So, yes, so this allows people to go, 20, 15. I mean, I guess,
I think default is 30, Tony.
no, it's 25.
I think it's 30, isn't it? No, it's-
Somewhere between 25 and 30.
I like that,
Or
Ann,
50.
because I believe I
I
asked,
thought we wanted to bring it to 25. That was
Maybe it is,
an
I mean,
order that I put in because I wanted to, the default is 30.
Well, anyway,
Either way,
I wouldn't
it's
do that
another-
in my life.
I do, hold on, Councilor Grow. I do have a question from Councilor Worthley first, then we'll go back to Councilor Grow.
Thank you. So I'm just looking at the template, and my first question was the 2/3 vote. Now I understand it was changed somewhere to be majority. Is it majority of the full council or majority of the people present, councilors present?
The majority of the council.
There's a difference, right? If we had a quorum of 5,
We always
3,
have
Majority vote.
all of our votes majority for the council.
so it's,
Ask Suzanne.
yeah, I think that's the mix of the questions for next time, I guess. And the other thing is, the sentence in here that says, no less than 3 abutters, I can't find it now, but basically, if they appoint 3 people to,
The primary point contact.
yeah, but what about the private roads? This is back to Council Majority, I do find these things, what about the private roads have 1 person on it and 2 people on it, because those exist? Are they gonna say, actually, you live on a private road that has 1 person, 1 abutter, 1 property view?
It's all your fault.
So you couldn't, let's say, for example, so I know that street pretty well, because it connects to my parents' street, or it doesn't connect. If you were gonna say, is there a stop sign in a Goose Cove Lake?
to get onto,
Holly,
yes, there is.
Before Holly? No, there
No,
was before Washington, but not before Holly.
to get onto, no, but for me to get onto Holly, there is a stop sign. But the other way, no, you people just fly
Well, let's say,
25
if
to
you
30
wanna
miles
try,
an
if you
hour.
wanna put one there for whatever reason, you couldn't, because you have to 2 more people living on your street in order to make a change, and that wouldn't make sense. You know what I'm saying,
I can't do anything.
essentially. So I don't know how we,
I think we've always, ruled on the exceptions, when there's minority exceptions.
When it's one person.
We've always
you can't have
ruled,
three,
I mean,
Anna even has her hand up.
Yeah, all right,
Help me out here, Suzanne.
Councilor Grow, please.
I guess I just wanted to remind Councilor Margiotta in his question that any of these changes still have to be approved by the city council. So even if someone came with a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, the city council could reject that out of hand, and we still have the final vote on this. Correct? I think.
I'm giving you the thumbs up, it's hard to say that.
Yeah.
Suzanne?
Yeah, I was gonna address that issue, just that there's been a discussion here about what happens if, or does this ordinance have the effect of having ordinances or restrictions to private ways go into effect, or if there is only 1 house on a road, does that limit that person's ability to approach the council for a regulation? This is just setting up the process. And it is only setting up a process for the adoption of ordinances for streets that meet the definition of private ways under section 2180B1 in our code of ordinances. So that's not a street that's, I mean, I'm assuming if there's a street with only 1 property owner, it's probably a dead end, right? Or there's maybe the city or some other large property owner owns that street. So that street may not fall within 21-80B1, which is a street dedicated to public use. So there's a lot of fine points in here, and this ordinance, I think, the effect will be a process, not to adopt certain regulations. And then the council retains its authority to adopt ordinances that are proposed. I just want people to be clear on that.
Excellent, thank you, Suzanne.
Suzanne,
Is there any other questions or comments from councilors?
Counselor O'Hara has his hand up.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you. This meeting's been very educational, I think, and particularly having Attorney Egan here tonight to answer questions. What Counselor Gross, using his road as an example, and the speed limit, the 25 mile an hour, and as Counselor Gross says, a safe speed for his street because the turns and the narrow, the width of the road, 15 miles an hour is more appropriate. And this is a question for Counselor Egan, and definitely has nothing to do with this, but it brings out liability. In Counselor Gross's example, God forbid there's an accident. Obviously, this time of year, people are out enjoying the summer weather, and visitors into the area, and children in the area. God forbid there's an accident on a private road. Who owns the liability on that private road?
But so I will address that. Thank you, Counselor O'Hara.
Thank you.
So it is the private owners who are responsible for the road. Part of what this ordinance does is it takes steps that are under the general law, chapter 90, section 18, which states that provides for this process. So the general law says that you can approach, private residents on a private road can request the city council to adopt regulations for their private streets. And that doesn't all of a sudden make that the city's liability. All that does is regulate the use of it, but that does not add to the city's liability, because it doesn't add to our ownership of the road.
I just follow up.
Councilman Meyer.
If that's the case, I mean, I have a number of residences on private roads who object to the city not currently allowing them to reduce the posted speed limit. And some of them are the people who are speeding, or their neighbors, others are Amazon delivery people. But by not allowing those owners of the road to limit the speed, the city is effectively eliminating their ability to control their liability and their exposure. So the city is creating and this would in fact help address that in terms of where the responsibility lies. Because if we have residents who would wish to reduce the speed limit on their way, but don't currently have the authority to do so, they have a liability that is a consequence of people speeding on their street, which they can't control.
Excellent. Councilor Majota, any questions?
No, I think that we're gonna bring this back to O&A though.
Yes, I'd like to have Mike Hale come and speak to it.
Is there any other council questions or comments before we move on? Councilor O'Neill?
Yes, I would just like to comment and follow up with, oh my goodness gracious, what Councilor Memhard just said, and that I find it interesting that the state will not allow Councilor Gross to limit the speed limit on his road, but yet he and the abutters of his road are responsible for an accident that happens. So I just find that very interesting. That's all. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Councilor O'Neill.
If I can, it's not that the state doesn't allow us, it's that any unposted street has a minimum of either 30 or 25 miles an hour. We are not a posted street, and we can't become a posted street without appealing to the city council.
I thought you said you wanted to be 15 miles an hour in the state.
I did, I was informed incorrectly that I had to go to the state. That was informed incorrectly till I found this law.
Okay, thanks.
So Counselor, the default is 30. So I know that for a fact, because I tried to change it to 25 for the default, and then I withdrew my motion right last year.
We can go to 25 without state approval. We can't go below 25.
I wanted to have
I
a
thought we
street
had
sign,
to-
a street limit sign posted on one of my streets on public
Rockport.
street, and it's 30.
Approved 25
Based
for
on
this,
what
for this,
Bob Bryan told me.
for the town of Rockport. I believe you have to apply to get a default lower than 30.
Like Manchester?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rockport has signs up, but it's, their default is 25,
When we first came into office.
yeah.
Way back then,
Yeah.
The law was we couldn't go below 30
miles an hour.
without petitioning the state.
And
Right,
And now we can go to 25, but we can't go below 25.
I thought the
Is that
default
on the
is
agenda
30,
now?
Yeah, no,
the default is 30,
Yeah,
it's not posted.
it's 30 by the state, but
Yeah.
that's not on the agenda.
Well, either or.
Yeah.
So
That relates to this ordinance, but yes.
I think that it's a great ordinance. I just would like to have Mike come in at the next zoning meeting and wrap up a few other things. Like Jason Grove says that, you know,
gross, that
we don't have to do it
unless we vote.
for it, but I'd still like to get his opinion on this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
No, I
then
think we
put
need
it
to
in front
answer
of
those
full
questions.
council. So,
We
Sherry,
don't
like
wanna
to
do anything that
to
hurts.
continue this?
Continuing to September 18th.
Yes.
That's another full meeting. Such fun.
Yeah, but these are fun meetings. Yeah.
All right, so that now ends do you want to end that?
I would like to close the committee of the whole at this point in time.
Are you sure that we don't get impacted, all of us, by Centennial Avenue?
Only the bridge is up.
Need a motion to adjourn. Need a motion to adjourn, or
Committee of the whole.
So I'm just, so I guess, do we have to roll call it? Roll call for,
Do we have to roll call? Sherry
close
says
the
no.
meeting? I don't think we do.
No.
I think we just have to close it. Okay. Anyway, it's closed.
So we leave you in the able hands of the O and A committee.
Yes.
Just make sure you travel 30 miles an hour. or less.
Unless posted.
That's posted.
Thank you for everyone. This has been a very enlightening meeting.
Thank you for all the counselors participating tonight.
We are gonna take something out of order. We're gonna go to number 12. And that's City Council 2023-046, working to amend GCO Chapter 5, Building and Building Regulations.
Article 4, construction or restoration of city-owned buildings by adding a new section
5-62.
Drive safe.
Take care. So we're gonna, the Ordinance Administration moved to recommend the City Council
amend the Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5,
Building and Building Regulations, Article 4, construction or restoration of city-owned buildings by adding new section 5-62 as follows. 5-62 title, no title in the council order, obviously. The purpose of section 562 is to apply the principles of sustainable design, construction, or uses of city-owned buildings. The basic objectives of sustainability are to reduce consumption of non-renewable resources, minimum waste, create healthy environments, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In order to apply these principles, the following sustainable technologies will be considered during the design process prior to the application for building permit or commencement of any work for the construction, renovation, or remodel of city-owned buildings. The work, these technologies shall include, but not be limited to, energy efficiency and conservation, such as HVAC system, lighting, controls, weatherization, renewable energy such as solar, wind, hydro, water conservation, waste management, transportation efficiency such as electric vehicle charging stations, pedestrian walk-in paths, bicycle paths, usage of environmentally low-impact building materials, operations and maintenance practices collectively hereinafter referred to as sustainable technologies. In the event of the certain sustainable technologies are not economically or otherwise feasible at the time the work is to commence, the work shall be designed and made so that it facilitates and optimizes the retrofit and installation of uses of sustainable technologies at some future point after completion. Municipal building in the harbor districts are exempt from external changes that could impact the aesthetics of the said building, but not necessarily internal ones. If a building or committee, designer, or designated member of the city administration can demonstrate the project return on investment cannot be achieved within 15 years timeframe from beginning from installation, the section of the codes of ordinance shall not apply. The section 5-62 shall be administered in accordance with Article 5, planning and community development of the city charter. With that being said, we'll go to Councilor Worthley. You have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Nolan and members of the Ordinance Administration Committee. As you know, this is sort of a resubmission of the order that I put in, I think it's October, because the Clean Energy Commission really improved it extensively to a point where it needed to be re-advertised as such. So this incorporates all of their changes and some of the ones that we've discussed. What I'd like to do is have a very brief summary. If I could share my screen, I'd like to, or if you can put it on, but I'd like to be able to click through it.
You can go ahead.
Okay.
You have the presentation.
Thank you. So I just do that. This. But before I jump in this, I also, Councilor Marjano, you asked at the last meeting if you had some numbers. It would be helpful to see how this works. And so with Councilor Nolan's approval, I've invited, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I've invited Evan Law.
Evan.
He works for a solar company and can help with some numbers, for an example. So we have a couple of things. So if you're, okay, so.
Can we share a screen with anything?
Yeah, I've sent that to Sherry, so we might share that too, but why don't we do this and then we'll transfer.
And my
over.
numbers aren't based on our company, they're based on the solar industry average.
Just as
Nothing that we are presenting as a sale.
Yeah, and Evan is here not as a vendor, but as someone to give us information on the possibilities of what the city's return could be with renewable energy. So there's not a vending situation or anything like that. This is just looking strictly for the information that Councilor Majota had asked for with some possibility of some numbers.
I think in about 3 minutes, I can go through this presentation.
Okay.
It's really a summary of where we were. So I took a lot of stuff out that I learned was irrelevant from the last one. So there's my presentation. The goal of the presentation today is hopefully to obtain a 3-0 recommendation from this committee. To recommend the full city council approve this ordinance. If members have questions, I welcome those, or if this needs to be continued with questions, I welcome those. If members vote against it, you have the right to do that. I would love the input so that I can get better. If you have any specific reasons why this might not be viable. What is this? This is in addition to the Code of Ordinances requiring each expenditure related to the construction and renovation of a municipal building to consider sustainability. Why has City Council ordinance change? Our ordinance says section 2-22, the Gloucester City Council shall exercise all legislative powers provided by section 1-3, 2-1, and 214 of the Gloucester City Charter. I believe that codifying this initiative into law will make it easier for this administration, future administrations, and future councils to support investing in renewable energy. Why? And I have 3 categories for why. 1, our fiduciary responsibility. 2, to demonstrate leadership to residents and businesses regarding climate change mitigation. And 3, to reduce our municipal carbon footprint. I'd just like to go through those 3 quickly. On fiduciary responsibility, we could do this as trivia someday, but the city of Gloucester in the last 5 years, 4 years plus was budgeted this year, was spent $4.8 million in electricity costs. And I think when we look at our budget, there's costs and there's investments, right? We don't think of the school department as a cost. We're investing in educating students, right? We don't think about fire protection as a cost. It's an investment protecting our properties. The electricity cost, it's gone. There's nothing, we don't get anything back out of it. So if we're to ever reduce our costs, that means more money in our budget to do all those other things, or some of the other things that we like to do. So the second one is leadership. So if the city of Gloucester is going to maintain our designation as a green community and join the other 300 municipalities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that have adopted the stretch building energy code, holding residential business property owners to a higher standard, then we should too. In other words, so starting next year, there is the stretch code, which is holding new buildings to a higher standard. If we adopt that, we'll maintain our status as a green community. But it's my opinion that we shouldn't just tell people to do, we should do it too. Sort of, what's the phrase? Do as I say.
We don't exempt ourselves something else stuff.
Right. But I want to beat it. I want to get there ahead of the curve. I want to be doing this sooner. And the last part of this is reducing our municipal carbon footprint. We've seen the bumper sticker, think globally, act locally. The city of Gloucester's contribution to our city's carbon footprint is approximately 2%. The other 98% comes from residential and business properties as well as vehicles. Enacting these principles alone will not save our planet, but if everyone thought that way, then there'd be no change. So that, the three reasons why I think we should do it: for fiduciary reasons, leadership reasons, and for protecting the planet. Clean Energy Commission has reviewed and approved my initial proposal dramatically, I'll add, and has enthusiastically worked on and endorsed this ordinance change. And then, Councilor Jordan, you asked for some specifics, and then the specifics are general, if that makes sense, on not a specific building, but what would happen if we were to look at doing solar for one example, and there's multiple things, solar, heat pumps, wind turbine things, but this is just an example of how that work. And if I can, Councilor Nolan, with your permission, to introduce Evan and have.
Yes.
And then do you have that presentation, Sharon? Yep. Evan, so Sharon's gonna put your presentation on the screen. So I need to. Sorry. I'm not sure. Is it done? Good.
Nope.
This is a new share.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Coming off votes.
You guys having a party that we're not aware of?
No, they're just using it as they're supposed to. Yes, they allow.
One more minute, so I gotta get back to City Hall.
But you have a right, you have a right to be in here, so. What, Tony?
And they're happy about having hot water.
Oh, yeah.
So I put together just a small proposal here. Based on an average size system, I'm using the high school as a roof example. The usage here isn't directly from the high school or anything like that. It's just giving you an idea. If you were to put a 16.2 kW system, which is 40 panels on the roof of, for instance, a flat roof like the high school with a ballasted system. So it's got a little bit of it's got a 10-degree tilt to all the panels. And then if you were to go to the next page, this is kind of the numbers page for you as to a 16.2 kW system is going to produce 20,620 kilowatt hours annually, okay?
It'd be easier if I shared my screen. Or if Evan does, it'd be easier if Evan shared.
I'd have to send them all, but you can let Evan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah.
There you go. So one of the most exciting things for municipalities and municipal buildings and non-for-profits is one of the reasons that a lot of people were doing solar or are doing solar is for the 30% federal tax credit. But the new ITC actually has a direct pay tax credit. So it's 30%, but it's actually a check that'll be cut directly to the city of Gloucester if they were to adopt any of these projects. So you would get a 30%. As in this situation, this upfront cost is $52,650. You're gonna get $15,795 as a direct payment to the city of Gloucester from the Department of Revenue. So one of the reasons a lot of municipal buildings weren't moving forward is they weren't getting a high incentive for doing solar, whereas now you're able to get full electrical savings. So you get all your electrical savings, which is over $20,000, 20,000 kilowatt hours worth of electricity as savings each year, as well as you're gonna get the upfront $15,795 as a direct payment. So that's one of the ways that it's really gonna cut down on your return on investment. Because you're gonna be just like any residential or any commercial application where you're getting the full amount back.
And I'm gonna add something if I could. When the city puts out a loan authorization for these projects, it's paid over 20 years, right? So that would be a $15,000 check to our operating budget. And the
Which would be
52,000.
within 3 months is what they're saying. This is the first year it's in place, so.
Right, and the 52,000 will be spread out over 20 years, so
Correct.
for operating costs, we're actually going up in funding, and because we spread that payment over that time, it'd be recouped.
Right, and depending on what your payment is, for instance, your monthly payment in all likelihood is going to be less than your monthly savings on your electric for the project. So the project is going to be saving you money monthly, not to mention it's gonna give you the 15,795 back. You're also gonna be getting, which isn't huge, but over the course of 5 years, based on the current rate of this incentive, which is REC incentive in year 1, it says is a renewable energy certificate program. It's not huge, but you're looking at $2,500 over the course of 5 years. So the bigger the system, the bigger the incentive. So that goes for everything. The bigger the system, the bigger your electrical savings, the larger your direct payment reimbursement, and the larger your rec incentive. So really, depending on.
Do you wanna share what you guys just are talking about?
That's depending on, so what are
Oh, by
you
the
using as
by
a
the
per rate for electricity?
27 cents is what it says per kilowatt hour here.
Right, so
And
that's
so
your
at 20,
average.
at 20,000 BT, we'd say $5,400 a year.
Right, so you take your 52,000, you take out your 30% direct payment, you take out your renewable energy certificates. And you're gonna go down, and your return on investment is going to be 5.4 years on this project. So, I mean, from what it seems is you're looking for a return on investment under 12 years. So you're getting within 5 years, pretty much on any project right now is right around between 5 and 7 years return on investment. Now, after that, you're just getting your electricity is completely covered by your solar production, and you're just accruing savings for money you're not paying to National Grid. But if you keep going down here, that'll show, you can show the. You keep going to the next page, yeah. This will show, your first year electrical savings. Now, again, this is based on National Grid's current rate of electricity, not necessarily what their rate's gonna be this winter or what you're gonna be locked in at in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So that's gonna change consistently. We can't really tell what they're gonna be at in 3 years. So I have an escalator on the current rate of electricity of, I think, right around 4% escalator. And these numbers aren't real. If you were to have, submit a actual bill for a building, we could put it into a proposal, for instance, and show you your true usage, what you'd really need to put on that roof to offset that one by 100%, and then that would give you your real return on investment. But based on the current rates of electricity and your incentives, your return on investment is always going to be between 5 and 7 years, especially with the new direct payment. So if you go down to the next page, that'll show your return. You have the upfront cost of $52,650 on the top right side. You have the direct payment. You have your rec incentive, and then you have your electrical savings. So in year 5, that'll all come back to you. The $218,000 number, that's obviously an estimate of electrical savings over the course of 25 years, of which is the warranty that all solar equipment maintains. Everything's pretty much at 25 years or greater for warranties.
So you're saying, just so I understand it, the upfront cost in this example would be 36,000, and then 25 years will have saved over 200,000.
So the upfront cost will be the 52,000. The city of Gloucester will get a check for 15,795, and then the rest will come with the electrical savings. Yes.
Can I ask a question? Go ahead. What does the warranty cover?
So the
The
warranty,
20 in year 20 of the warranty, is it prorated?
it's not prorated, no.
Not prorated,
What they
100%
cover,
of-
as far as the panels goes, they have a production guarantee. For instance, every panel has a different one to some degree, but for instance, these are Q-Cell is the brand. They have a guarantee, they have a production guarantee of at 25 years, the panels will create 85% of output, of initial output. So it'll diminish by 15% over the course of 25 years. And then they have a full warranty on, it's all dependent on the equipment you use, but on the racking, it's 25 years on all the equipment, any defects in the equipment. 25 years on inverters, depending on what type of inverter you use. And the panels have the 25-year. So I mean, one of the big things obviously is also, I mean, I've been doing this for about 10 years, and the biggest thing to do is also make sure the roof you're putting it on is not gonna need to be replaced in the next, 15, 20 years, because taking panels off, replacing your roof and putting panels back on, your return on investment gets ruined by that. So you wanna make sure you're putting it on the right roof, right application, and using the right equipment, which is, tier 1 products that aren't gonna deteriorate over time.
So first, good question. And I think that those would also be good questions to ask with each presentation to administration on a loan authorization. So for example, we just agreed to $19.5 million to replace the courthouse building. And if the mayor had come to us and said, it's not 19.5, it's 19.6, because of stupid Jeff Worthy ordinance in 2023, for example, then you'd be able to say, well, why are we spending this extra $100,000? And that's what we're saying, here's what we get. Do you follow me on how it would be, the process? These questions, we're still gonna have a chance to ask these questions. We're not saying yes to Cazalt today or solar, we're saying this is an example of how return on investment would be there. He's saying between 5 and 6 years. I put the ordinance in that says if it's less than 15 years, it's not required. So there's a lot of outs for administration. If they're putting a solar panel or if it's a heat pump and it doesn't make sense, the council could say, we don't need to stick to this ordinance because it didn't qualify. I can't think of buildings right now that have shading, but if there were a building with shading, it says the return is not there, then we wouldn't have to do it. This is showing an example of high school, which has pretty much full sun. Courthouse would have been a place that has pretty much full sun.
High school is a little odd for an example, considering it's in a high velocity zone and repair to the roof from abrasion would be considerable.
I'm gonna see those.
Can't see those, but cleaning them off.
Yeah, and this is just an example, I mean, a small example, right? Like, for instance, high school would need a lot more panels than that to offset the high school actual bill, It's just kind of, but with the larger system, comes the larger offset, the larger tax break or not tax break, direct payment. So everything works on the same kind of scale. This is just a smaller system.
So I hope that helps with understanding the concept of it. This is not, we're not actually saying yes to solar panels in high school, but just to see how it would work. Each project would have to go through this review to say, does this make sense to doing that? And the goal is to say, right now, there is no process that requires administration or the council to say, is this important? Have we done this? This ordinance change would say, okay, administration, we'll have to accept it's gonna cost a little bit more because it's a council ordinance, but there would be no sidestepping this review. Make sense?
Thank you, Council Worthley. Thank you, Evan.
You wanna go, you've been here all day, you gotta drive.
Is that it? You're done?
No, I'm not saying it, you're done, I'm not sorry, that's between.
No, thank you.
You're more than welcome to stay the whole
I
meeting.
bet you enjoyed hanging out with us.
Oh, I do. He just said, I might learn something. I was like, all right.
Scratch
Yeah.
your head, like, oh my
Thank you, that
God.
was good.
No, I appreciate it.
I wish my house didn't have shade.
Yeah, that's the only.
I think I talked to you.
I've got a terracotta roof, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, but you get a big piece of property.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Now,
Thanks,
Float-
guys.
float to the forest. Float to the forest.
I was down with Deer Street last
So,
yesterday.
Evan essentially is volunteered here because Tim Sanborn said this is important to the city. I'll send my employee. There's no project proposal for them. But I just appreciated that even people are coming in for public service.
So I guess another, back to this and not solar. The state is also adding regulations and stuff to potentially buildings, is that correct? And when does that get into play? So if anything, ordinances that we pass, the state laws were they're just, right, they oversee ours, so if the state says you need to do this, we have to apply anyways by the state.
Close. We'd have
Or
to,
close to.
hang on, join us then. Answer.
I do have to do. What do we have on the call and how many hands we have raised besides Councilor Rowe?
That's it right now.
Go ahead and answer that. and then we'll move to
So
Councilor Rowe.
that's, if we choose, so in that case, the stretch code that's coming, well, it's not coming if we don't adopt it. So the city council could say, we do want this or we don't want that for these additional regulations. And I wouldn't call them, partly they're new regulations, partly they're just higher standards of the same regulations. I don't know if we're gonna accept it, but I might not even be here. It might be next year, it might be 5 years from now. This would be a way for us to say, it doesn't matter when the council, if the council accepts it for residents and businesses, for us taking a little bit of leadership role to say, we're doing it. And if we get to that point and we want to regulate residents and businesses to have this higher standard, I can already hear someone saying, well, the city of Gloucester doesn't do it, why should we? And this is for us to preempt that and say, no, we've been doing it since 2023 now.
Excellent, thank you. Councilor Rowe, you do know the difference between the questions and how we can do this right now, so go ahead. And you're muted.
I'll end everything with an upward inflection at the end of my statement. Questions I have are this. One, would stretch codes apply to municipal construction in the first place, getting to Councilor Marjota's point, which is that if we do end up accepting stretch codes that are for private construction, would we be obligated to adhere to those as municipal construction? That's first question. Second question would be, the way the ordinance is written, that I can tell, it's saying that these technologies will be considered during the design process, but does not require the city to actually do any of these things. The question I have is, doesn't the city already consider all of these as potential cost savings for future construction costs and energy usage? So are we asking to legislate something that's already in effect by the design and procurement procedure? The number three, in the event that certain sustainable technologies are not economically or otherwise feasible at the time, the work shall be designed and made so that it facilitates and optimizes the retrofitting, blah, blah, blah. As a photographer, I am often presented a contract that requires me to grant rights that are known or unknown hereafter throughout the universe. I swear to God, that's true. The question is how do we require the city to design and build for technology that is not yet known or unknown throughout the universe? I mean, I think are we hamstringing the building process to something that we don't know what is going to be best 5-10 years down the way. And I guess that's probably my main questions regarding this ordinance. Also, one last question. Do we have something from the Clean Energy Commission indicating their enthusiastic endorsement of this?
Thank you, Jason. I believe, Sherry, we do have a letter from the Clean Energy Commission that you can throw up, and I believe we have a letter from the administration on this as well.
We do.
So we'll share a couple of screens right now.
Do you want the Clean Energy Commission first?
That would be great.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to try to attempt to answer Councilor Crow's questions, the one to the extent that I can, if that's all.
I can answer the one about
commercial, which would be holdings. So,
Jason, can you see that on page 65 of our packet for tonight?
Yeah, about 23. You read that,
When did that get sent?
May 31st.
Stamped.
Did that get sent by you?
No, that's from the Clean Energy Commission. And there's a follow-up email afterwards
From the administration.
from the Clean Energy Commission and then one from the administration.
I haven't seen the administration yet.
It's in the packet.
Yeah, it was sent.
For tonight or
It
for
is.
last month?
No, it's in the packet for tonight. Then Jason, just let us know when you're done reading that first page.
Like I said, I can read these myself. I think it's more important to answer the questions about whether or not we're held to the stretch codes, if we accept those, and also whether or not we already do all this stuff, and the retrofitting, the future construction.
I think that the questions that you have asked, it's gonna be hard for us to answer them. I think that'd be more of an answer that we would get from,
I might have an answer.
from administration. I don't know if we want to get into answers and stuff like that on a committee level.
Fine by me, it's fine.
So
I could comment on that though. I mean,
I'd rather not.
I'd rather
Get the comment from
administration and legal.
well, I want to ask him about on the stretch code. I can answer that piece.
I'd still rather wait till the council meeting. I feel better with that
Okay.
one. So and then there's obviously a letter from the administration on this that you can also find in the packet.
That wasn't in the packet.
It wasn't in the packet?
That was emailed.
It was emailed, okay.
So
Can
that-
you get that out to the full council?
Yes.
I did.
Energy is on page 65.
The administration's letter wasn't in the packet,
I don't believe so.
because I mean, I just looked at it and see that, and it came to us in an email.
An email.
From
So
who?
that will go out to the rest of the council. And with that being said, we have, sorry, Counselor O'Neill, do you have a question?
Yes, is it okay if I have a comment and not a question?
No, because we're not, we can't really have questions. We're trying to keep it as clean as possible and not have any issues with open meeting law. It's more, it's hard to explain.
So just ask a question, just ask a question,
Yes.
right?
And we
So,
may not be able to answer it, but certainly ask it.
okay, so my question would be, in this proposed 562, paragraph 2, it says, in order to apply these principles, the following sustainable technologies will be considered. Would it be a good idea to rearrange that sentence a tiny bit by saying, in order to apply these principles, the following, comma, but not limited to the below, comma, sustainable technologies will be considered. So we're not limited to what's written here. As new technologies emerge, we can use those as well. That's-
Excellent, thank you, Council O'Neill.
That's something that we can bring up at the full council meeting, if you want to make an amendment to it.
Just asking the question, that's all.
The last thing, on that part, technologies shall include, but not limited to. These technologies shall include, but not be limited to. So it's in there.
And I feel safer if we discuss that as a full council at that point. All right, so Councilor O'Hara, do you have anything you'd like to add to this?
I like the concept that Council Worthley has brought forward. I think it has a lot of merit. I think just the the questions as far as clarification, which, dealing with construction projects and incorporating, the means and methods to accommodate, in this case, solar panels into a construction project. The true cost is unknown, but clearly payback that Evan had explained, I think, certainly opens up the eyes to myself. 5-year payback is tremendous. But I obviously getting the input from others is very important. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Councilor Hara. Councilor Majota, do you have any questions or comments?
More, I think it's the same sort of comments, the questions I had the previous time, if the city's already doing something, what is the state of Massachusetts sort of doing, there's based on the presentation that there is something coming along. How soon is that coming along? Or is that something that we can sort of push sooner than later? And I mean, I love the idea. I'm all for clean energy and, helping the future and any greenhouse effects or whatever, I'm all about that, just not sure about this particular recommendation.
Alrighty. So we do have a motion and we do have a second.
No,
You said, you read the motion, it was not moved in second.
Alright, so I move.
and I'll second.
And this is to send it to full council. And will be roll call vote on this, and we'll start with Councilor Hara.
Yes.
Councilor Majota.
No,
Councilor Nolan, no. So the motion, well, it's gonna go to council, but it's going to council on a 1 in favor, 2 opposed.
May I ask, if I may, if I can, I'll ask a question, if it's not valid, that's fair. There are questions asked here that we can't answer here. So those answers might be able to be funneled to the council somehow. But then this committee voted 1 in favor, 2 against, so how does that integrate sort of like you had a great question, and I want to answer it, and it might change your mind. But do I then answer that question at the full council level to try to change your vote that's recommending to the rest of us what we should be doing? It's kind of like it's a hard place to know when we, at the council level, your recommendation is against it, but you might be in favor if I could answer questions I can answer here.
So Council Worthley, when there's a question's asked and you say, I think I can answer that, that's not what I'm looking to hear. I'm looking
I
to
don't
hear
wanna assume
this
I
is
have-
fact.
Well, I could tell you one
So-
fact that was asked and I could answer a fact and it would put it to bed and it
So-
might be resolved.
But at the full council, you may ask to recommend to have some people there that can answer questions and bring facts, and then we can vote on it. But
So I should
tonight is
ask to
just a-
recommend that people come to the meeting to answer questions that were asked at this committee level, at the full council.
I would speak to the council president on how you wanna approach that.
Okay,
But
that's fair.
we're not saying we don't like the idea, we're just saying
Alright,
that we're not sold on the idea right now.
I just can't sell you though if I can't answer the questions here.
Right.
I guess I can't sell you here on answering the questions here. Can't answer those. I got it. Sorry,
So that's where we're going with that one.
thank you.
All right, so that is down. Now I believe we are going to number 5, correct? And this is CC 2023-040, Council Gross,
To amend
GCO, Chapter 21, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places,
section 21,
55, permit required, continued from 7/31/23. The Ordinance Administration moved to recommend the City Council amend the Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Section 21, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places, Article 3, excavation, Section 2155, permit required as follows. No person shall open or permanently constructed street, sidewalk, or public way for any purpose whatsoever, first without obtaining a permit, and to do so from the Department of the Public Works. The process for obtaining such a permit shall be governed by procedural rules adopted by the Department of Public Works. These rules shall be subject to the provisions of the City Charter, Section 7-16B. Added, B, from June 1st to September 1st of each year, no road open permits shall be issued except in emergency or for critical maintenance as determined by the Department of Public Works for the following streets. The following streets would be Angle Street, Atlantic Road, Atlantic Street, Bass Avenue,
Commercial Street,
Concord Street to Atlantic Street, Dale Avenue, East Main Street, Eastern Avenue, Eastern Point Road, Farrington Avenue, Hesperus Avenue to Norman Avenue, Magnolia Avenue, Main Street, Maplewood Avenue, Middle Street, Nautilus Road,
Norman Avenue,
Pleasant Street, Main Street to Prospect Street, Railroad Avenue, Rocky Neck Avenue, Roger Street, Saywood Street, Thatcher Road, Washington Street, Western Avenue, Washington Street,
Centennial Avenue.
and I so move.
Second,
Okay, Councilor Gross, would you like to comment on this?
Well, we also don't know why this came up. There was the Eastern Avenue and then there was, but it was really just 2 days of disruption, but also the Main Street was the open road, was not necessarily the repaving project that was delayed and unfortunately was not completed by April. And we're in partnership with National Grid. We could have had Main Street completely repaved and be, very nice right now, but they went into June. It just got way too much interruption for the businesses. So, and I actually, when I was running for council, I was coming North Gloucester. And I knew that they were repaving Washington Street, but then they were doing lots of work. They were Maplewood Avenue was also majorly obstructed. And I was like, there's got to be some kind of coordination here that happens. And I thought that something like this may be appropriate. Now, I threw in 27 streets there. That may be a little bit of excess. I think the June to September, we have to be very cognizant of our paving season, which is very limited. April, November, maybe, Halloween, April to Halloween. And then after Halloween, the ones that are open are much more expensive. So you have much higher costs added on. So we can't shut down, limit ourselves so much that we're biting our nose off to spite our face. So I actually would like to reconsider to have a consultation with the DPW director, if he could look at this list of streets and ask if what we feel are required streets. On
Not a
this.
problem. So would you like to bring this back into a couple of weeks?
I would. I'd like to send the list of streets to the DPW director and ask, what his opinion. I did have, a few conversations with him about it. But, looking at 27 streets, it may be a little bit in excess. So, I'd like to have a conversation with him.
Not a problem, Tony. Sherry, can we put this off?
We're gonna be a little bit busy.
Yeah, so it can go to later.
Let's go to the following
meeting.
Yeah.
Because this is obviously.
Because it wouldn't go into
next
effect till next year
anyways.
anyway, so it can go.
October 2nd.
October 2nd. It's 2 days before my anniversary.
What happens if you give us a surprise like we get away?
I don't know. My 50th birthday's coming up, and I got my 57 Chevy for my 50th, so I don't know where she's gonna be. All right, so now we're gonna be on to a bunch of stuff that pertain to Washington Street
And Centennial Avenue.
There's a bunch of questions here, and before we get into any of these 5 motions, we have talks of a site visit, all right? We have general ideas of what a site visit can be with and how it shall work. So I personally would like to continue all of these until we have a site visit. I'm gonna be looking for some guidance on this because I've read some different opinions on how the rules work for site visits. I would like to continue this out again. Can this one go to the 4th as well? And that gives us time to go plan a site visit to continue all of these?
Would you have a site visit between now and the 4th? Is that what you're
I would. What I wanna do is I don't know how to do this, but I'd like to find out exactly what the rules are on how we're gonna do the site visit and then advertise the site visit.
Generally don't advertise the site
Okay.
visit. You set the date and time at the meeting but you don't advertise it
So,
legally, if that's what you mean, like a legal ad, that doesn't
Okay.
happen.
so what if we said, some Saturday at noon? Or 10 in the morning or something? To do this, I'm just kind of getting a general feeling for everything, and I'd be referring to the council president as a procedural question. Because we all saw emails today of what's going on, what the ideas
I
are.
would say early in the mornings, better for families than
So
middle of the
say like
day
a
on a hot summer
Saturday.
day, right? That would be my.
I mean, I think
suggestion.
the question would be, what are we trying to capture for information, right? You wouldn't try to capture school traffic at 6 o'clock at night, for example. So if we're saying Saturday might be a busier time because of voting,
Votes.
right? Then you say, okay, Saturday, and I guess I'm not a voter, kind of vote, but I'm thinking early would make sense, right? That should capture that information. If you want to see what school traffic would be like, then a school day, so. And maybe there's a couple of different times we might want to individually go there just to.
I've been there, I probably spent 2 hours there the last month and a half over this watching and getting an idea of what I think too. You can go into Oak Grove Cemetery, you can sit there, you can just watch for a while and go on.
George.
Yeah, I mean, you're too busy eating when you're sitting there. But I just think that there's a lot of questions, and I think that that's the fair shake is to do this with a site visit. And if we could say that 2 Saturdays from now at 8 o'clock, whoever can make it, and we'll go through it and figure it out.
So today is the 14th. That would be September 2nd, which I think is Labor Day weekend.
People may not be here.
It's taking 3 Saturdays from now.
Yeah,
That'd be September 9th.
perfect.
Do you want to do a site visit September 9th at 8 AM?
And that's an O&A site visit. So
Makes sense.
it is what it is, and there's no real comments, discussion, it's questions and observation.
And you want to, excuse me, I was gonna say you want to continue this to, it's October 2nd, not October 4th. You're
Yes.
saying the 4th, October 2nd.
Where the traffic commission is actually the one recommending these specific changes, would it make sense to invite a representative from there were to come to please explain what the proposals are, what they're intended to do? I don't know, there's value in that.
I'm gonna step out and ask Counselor Gross to speak.
If this is a recommendation from the traffic commission, that needs to go through the mayor's office.
The traffic commission's already made recommendations on it.
Yeah, this is their recommendation.
Well, then they should have come from the mayor's office then. They should, recommendations from the traffic commission should not come directly to us.
No, we changed the ordinance a lot.
You already said that we could refer stuff out, but did we refer this out to traffic commission?
Yeah,
We
it was
did.
referred out.
The question still stands, should we invite them as sort of presenters and hear the, I mean, some of it's intuitive, it's pretty clear, but maybe they could explain why they made these recommendations, if that's helpful.
I have no problem with that.
So we officially invite them, or a member, or
Would it be their site visit?
they didn't.
They had a site visit.
Don't forget that they're a public body.
Yeah,
So when they're at the site visit,
They're
They are a
responding as a public body.
Was that publicly posted as a site visit? Their site visit was?
What do you mean? What- but-
When the traffic commission did it.
Oh,
Joanne's waving her hand.
Hey, Joanne.
Hi, when the traffic commission does their site visit, they do it individually. They don't do it as a group.
I was invited to it and there was a group of them there, so
Okay, so usually what happens is, on some of the minutes, they say that the members will individually attend the site visit. So, I don't know what rule they follow, but maybe in this case, they did it as a group. Did they have a quorum?
I don't know what the number of traffic commission members are, but there was 4 of them there.
There's-
That's a lot. Well, it's a nice group or something, 7, 5.
All right, so, with that
Councilor
being,
Nolan,
Council O'Hara.
thank you. May I make a comment?
yes, sir.
Okay, as you have said, Councilor Nolan, I've done the same. I've stood at that multiple intersections. It's a very complex intersection. Centennial, Washington, Grove Street has a lot of moving parts depending on the time of the day. The moving parts are even more frequent, of different sizes, different configurations. And a site visit, that we're planning on September 9th is great. But I think it's probably more important, as you did, Councilor Nolan, for everyone to visit it on their own. We don't know what September 9th weather's gonna be at 8 AM, but I think that this particular issue, really, to get a good feel on it, everyone needs to spend some substantial time standing at each corner, Grove Street, at Centennial, either side of Centennial, watching the moving parts. It is a very complex issue. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Councilor O'Hara. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you. I am not able to do that Saturday. I work, but more importantly, I think that being there on a school day when the high school gets out is imperative. Okay,
And-
that's, to me, that's the busiest time. So if anyone can make it there, I don't know what time they get out, 2:30, something like that. That's when that intersection is busy and dangerous.
I would
So-
recommend to everybody to try to spend some time there. That's what I've done in the last few months. At different times, get a few minutes to sit there and watch and do things, but I'd recommend to everybody to spend a little bit of time there. Jamie, I know you've been down there quite a bit. So, and just your entire life around being around that area. So with that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second,
And this will be on roll call. We'll start with Councilor O'Hara,
yes.
Councilor Majota,
Yes.
Councilor Nolan. Yes, thank you all and have a great night.
Thank you.